All right, guys. Hey, welcome to episode 71 of the DragIt Drive Repeat Show presented by Summit Racing. Y'all, for this episode, it's going to be a bit crazy. We talked to Alan and Nicole Ledesma, who raced a Mach-E Mustang, an EV, on Rocky Mountain Race Week. One of the coolest stories I've seen and followed along the way. And then we have the promoters of the BC DragIt Challenge. They're going to be on talking about their event that just ended during the Rocky Mountain Race week that we were out. Plus, we're going to go over a recap of the month of June for the Drag and Drive community. Absolutely crazy! I can't wait till you guys hear all the numbers and stats that went on in there. Mr. Eric, sir, if you'll hit that intro video, let's kick this thing off, dude.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're gonna pack things up and hit the road and try to make it the next day.
All right, man. I'm so ready for tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. Guys, my name is Mike Narks. I am the host of the Drag Drive Repeat Show, which you're watching right now, and the Drag Drive Repeat News, which happens on all of our channels on Saturday morning live. And the dude that just got off the road from Rocky Mountain Race Week and Midwest Drag Racing Series Show is Crazy Week. My co-host, Mr. Eric White. Sir, introduce yourself. Tell him what you got going on, dude.
I am Eric White, the co-host of both the show and the news, and I just finished uploading 1,860 photos from Six Summer to the Drag Drive Repeat Facebook page. Last album just went up last night with, what was it, 583
Dude,
photos?
you are an animal, sir. Plus, he edited like what 600 Rocky Mountain Race Week photos or 350 Rocky Mountain Race Week photos that I was sending him while he was also editing the Six Summer stuff. It's crazy, man.
And
Thank you so much.
and putting the Heads Up Hustle artwork together as well. So it's been wild.
Yeah, it's been a hard couple days. So the heads up hustle, what he's talking about is, guys, listen, I'm so excited to be an announcer. In that elite group of people that talk about racers doing their stuff all day, and to celebrate that, we're posting almost daily artwork for heads up hustle and the racers that are there. And in the very bottom corner of that picture says me as announcer, which is kind of cool. I think that's really the whole reason I think I asked you to do that. So I'm really excited about that event. I'm excited about the opportunity that Jump Off Ranks has given me. Again, Heads Up Hustle, the end of July. So, dude, that's my next trip.
Yeah.
That's what I have going on next. It's crazy to be home for almost a month.
Yeah, you'll be heading there, and I'll be heading to a family vacation in Florida.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. We may cross. You guys are probably flying though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Illinois to Florida, that's too far of a drive for sure.
It'll be a weird having a week without doing anything drag and drive while I'm gone.
Yeah,
That'll be I don't know the last time that we had a week where there wasn't something going on.
man, it's gonna
But
be nuts. It's
I'm
gonna
gonna
be nuts.
enjoy it though. It'll be a good trip.
Yeah, bring it on, dude. That's what vacations are about, is the time to relax. So you know what that means? You just have to hammer out a lot of stuff ahead of time. That's what it generally means. You
Oh
put
yeah.
3 weeks worth of work into you put 4 weeks worth of work into three. So that's
Yep.
that's kind of how it goes in all of that. Well, guys, listen, let's get this thing started tonight. It's gonna be a fun show. Again, thank you for being our race car friends. Thank you for being here. This shot I actually took last week at a Bucky's in Texas, and you can see our boy in the middle there, Mr. Jesse Fox, 3G video. Tons of great content from him. And then behind him is all the race car friends that we made while we were there. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool cars that were down there. And we appreciate everybody in the conversations we had. And then thank you to our sponsors that make all this stuff possible: Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports, Driven Racing Oil, Car Chains 3D, Waf Racing, Performer Built Transmissions, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Racing Junk Classifieds, and PowerTube TV, which I actually talked to Ray at PowerTube today. We've got some fun stuff that we're working on for a little bit later in the year, but PowerTube is going to be a great opportunity for a lot of folks to find additional coverage and exclusive stuff from us over there. So if you haven't signed up for that, definitely do that as well. All right. The Summit Racing, guys, their speed legacy began in 1968 as a one-man startup and is now the world's speed shop with 4 facilities, 200 plus catalog editions. They fuel your passion. They save you money. They deliver fast, and they offer top-notch customer service for more than 1,500 brands. Make sure you download the Summit Racing mobile app for easy access to speed parts. You can find them on all the social media: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And they have their own podcast talking to automotive influencers and manufacturers and all the stuff. It's really fun over there, called the On All Cylinders podcast. From humble origins to the social media lane, Summit Racing stands by your need for speed. Find everything you need at summitracing.com. All right. And don't forget, guys, Drag, Drive, Repeat merch right over there at summitracing.com. You can get it. Just search Drag, Drive, Repeat. That's the easiest way to do that. And I'm telling you, shirts and hoodies and soon to be more things available. There's stuff in the pipeline. Again, we're just waiting on that stuff to come out. It's going to be awesome. So we appreciate them helping us and supporting us that way.
Yeah, and there was just a post in the Race Car Friends group of one of our race car friends got a t-shirt today as well.
Yep, Ken Cuddle. It's awesome. He's the one. I don't know if you saw the share I made of his Chevelle. Dude,
Yep.
Great picture you took. Shared it with him. It's awesome. And so we're glad to see him out, supporting us, and we appreciate that a bunch for sure. And I want to give a big shout out to Dustin Cottle and his dad Don. They were wearing their Drag Drive Repeat shirts on Rocky Mountain Race Week. So thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate you guys and all the support. Hey, so we got a bunch of folks in here tonight. Well, the other day, or maybe today, yesterday posted, how did you get started in drag racing? And any interesting stories from your first races? So Bob DeFrancisco here says, my first memory of drag racing is when an uncle stored a dragster chassis in my parents' yard when I was 4. That's around 1975. He said my mom yelled to get out of the dragster 30 times a day until his uncle moved. Same uncle ended up as a tech inspector for NHRA and at their local track in the 80s where I worked the water box. It's kind of cool. And then he said 7 years later, I was hired at a local Chevy dealer where several techs had race cars and there was a shop project truck. How cool is that? I can't imagine nowadays them having a shop truck. He said, after a few years of working there, I was gifted the truck to race for a season. Super cool. And then when the dealer closed, I bought it and have raced it for 20 plus years. And this is the truck that's in the back right here.
Dude, that's a super cool story.
That is pretty amazing, man. And I'm telling you, my story is not nearly that cool, but my mom was actually telling a story when she was at Midwest Drag Race Series with us over the weekend, that she actually, after the jet cars ran, she's like, do you remember the jet cars when you were like 3? And I was like, nope, do not remember that. And she said that when we lived in Houston, they actually drug me out to the Houston Raceway there, whatever it was called back then, and they raced 2 jet cars. And this would have been, 84, 85, something like that. Like, that's pretty early on in jet car stuff. So I can only imagine that. And then I moved to Northeast Arkansas when I was like 17. I'd always been into cars, but when I met Aaron Mick, Paul Snyder, Matt Ritchie, Kevin Gann, all kinds of people, Corey Bowers, all these folks, and they were obviously being Northeast Arkansas flat and straight roads. You kind of do some drag racing, and they pushed it over the edge. So we, in auto shop, we worked on cars. Then we all went and kind of raced some. I'm not going to say we street raced because that's not what it was. We were out driving fast on back roads. It wasn't even racing, I don't think, really at that point. But we would make trips to Jonesboro, and in that, Aaron ended up meeting a whole bunch of other drag racers, and man, it went wild from there. So
that was awesome.
Yeah, it was. I had a pretty fun high school time, that's for sure. What about you, dude?
For me, I was always into cars and racing in general, but for me, it was circle track when I was a kid, since our local circle track up until this year It closed down, but it was only 5 minutes from my house. So I raced their 4-cylinder class for a few years. I did the trailer race where, you got the vehicle, the
Oh,
trailer, you try to knock off the trailer. I did that a couple years.
that's
Um,
awesome.
then I got into drifting and autocross with the 240. But for drag racing, that came when I went to Outlaw Armageddon at Thunder Valley Raceway Park in 2016. Saw like the Street Outlaw, No Prep King guys. I actually got to see some super fast cars on the
Yeah.
track. And that's kind of what hooked me into it. Originally, I was going to convert the 240 into a drag car, but I ended up getting the opportunity to get to the Fox body and decided to go that route instead and keep the 240 as is. So yeah,
Yeah.
Outlaw Armageddon 2016. I went with a group of coworkers, and we actually went back, I think, three times after that, and
That's
went back
awesome.
and went to that event. And it was a, I don't know, 12-hour trip, 5 dudes in a minivan, and yeah, it was a weekend event, and it was a good time. But that's where I really got hooked into drag racing, watching some of those fast cars at the track.
Yeah, that's dangerous. That's really dangerous because, like, man, you go and you watch like some, high 3 second, low 4 second cars, and you're like, okay, now it's up.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. Yeah, that's pretty wild. But man, I'm glad you didn't convert the 240 into a drag car because, dude, I think that would probably be a fun car to cruise around, stick shift, convertible, LS,
Yep.
all that stuff. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yep, it is. It's a good time. I headed out actually over the weekend. There was a Hot Rods and Hot Eats little car show basically across the street from my house. So I took and washed it up real quick, and we ran over there and parked it and walked around the parking lot for a little while, hung out and talked to a bunch of people. So that was a good time.
Dude, that's awesome. All right, well, let's get into some of this stuff, man. That's a great story. And guys, listen, we want to hear your stories on that as well. But let's talk driven racing oil and some of the events that are coming up.
Yep. Why gamble with performance or protection when you get proven results from Driven Racing Oil? Trusted by top engine builders, winning racers, and devoted horsepower enthusiasts around the world. Driven takes legendary base oils such as the ones from Bradford, Pennsylvania, which comprise their GP1 line, and then Driven boosts that superior base with state of the art additive packages. Driven's GP1 Nitro 70 not only provides anti-wear protection, but can even shield cylinders from washout and fuel dilution caused by using methanol or nitro-based fuels. Learn more about Driven Racing Oil by following them on Facebook and Instagram at Driven Racing Oil, or shop now at drivenracingoil.com.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, June was an absolutely intense month. We had talked about April being a crazy month, and it was the month of regional events. But June was the month of national level events and a few regionals because it was crazy, man. There were let's go through some numbers. Won't you tell the folks how many people raced in the month of June?
Yeah, for the month of June, the racer count was over 1,000 racers. And
Absolutely crazy.
tracks visited 24 different tracks across the world.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. I mean, there was Drop the Hammer, visited 2 tracks that kinda kicked the month off. Olympic Drag and Drive kicked off with 2 tracks. Those 2 events accounted for 120 of the racers. We had 6 Summer that visited 4 tracks, 317 racers on day 1. Alaska Speed Week had 2 tracks. UK Street Weekend had 2 tracks. Big Sky Race Week had 4 different tracks, 124 racers there. BC DragIt Challenge, 69 racers on day 1 there and 4 different tracks. And then Rocky Mountain Race Week, 4 different tracks, 326 racers. Absolutely crazy, dude. It's awesome to see that many people come together across the world to do drag and drive. Again, we ran more than 19 days or something like that straight every day with a drag and drive event.
Yeah, pretty intense for sure.
Yeah, yeah, lots of stuff and lots of stats that I'm working on. Half of every day of my life right now is working on getting stuff updated for the Drag Drive Repeat website for, the Drag and Drive World Champion point series. We've got that. Trying to get all of the stories updated from those. It's been crazy and I love it, and that's what we're going to do. All righty. Well, right now, I want to talk. Oh, sorry. This was the slide that we were going to do for the events, but I do want to talk about. I see that the promoters for the BC DragIt Challenge are in the back, and I know we're a little bit early, but if they're ready, can they give us a thumbs up and let us know that they're good to go? Perfect. All right. So the plan is to go through here, and guys, we typically don't have guests on the first half of the show here that are promoters of the event, so I'm excited about this because it's going to give them an opportunity to kind of talk about the event, talk about the racers, and then they raced on some airports. I want to find out how they did that. Like, how do you set that up? Because there's an airport right around the corner from me that I'd love to set up with that. So let's put this away and we'll bring them on. Good evening, guys. How are y'all?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
Oh my gosh, we're awesome now that you're here. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm telling you, we don't do a lot of promoter interviews just simply because there's so many racer stories, and a lot of times the promoters are driving tow trucks and pulling a trailer, and so it's not quite as much. There's not as much roadside repair story that comes from the promoter side.
Right.
But if you guys will do us a favor, introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, and then what you do outside of hosting a drag and drive event.
Nothing.
We're both retired.
Nice.
I'll start. I've been self-employed.
Names.
My name is Mark. My nickname is Bog, and a bog means severe hesitation before severe acceleration. I learned that real early in drag racing. I've been involved in drag racing for over 50 years. I have the same car that I bought 52 years ago.
What?
Which I'm still driving. Still racing, driving on the street now. I had many automotive businesses that catered to newer cars and on. And I finally, in 2011, said enough of this, sold the business, moved all my hand tools and old school tools home, and started working strictly on old cars. They had to have a distributor and a carburetor, or I wouldn't work on it.
Nice.
And I had quite a big following, and then we moved. Kind of made a lot of my customers upset, but whatever. Then this is Diane. Diane can tell you now.
Hi. I follow him. Wherever he drags me. I didn't do the drag racing like Mark did. I just like to organize events. And, once we saw this event starting to take over the world,
Yeah.
we got to get in on this. This is really cool. I mean, drag racing is one thing, but sitting at the track waiting for your next hit is a little bit, I don't have a lot of patience. He got me a 66 wagon, Chevelle wagon to race. And it was like, but there's a lot of time in between that I could be doing something. So this is just the perfect thing ever.
Yeah.
The cruising part, like I said to a lot of the young people, it's like the cruising part is just the best. And then you get to do burnouts and go fast legally, So I just kind of like followed him around and we started doing this. And I was in the healthcare industry, so this is totally different for me, but I love to organize and plan. I'm already planning next year. So,
nice. I think that answers one of our questions that we had. Is there going to be a 2025? Yeah.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we would be shot if we didn't.
Yeah.
Everybody was extremely happy. So
that's awesome. And I'm telling you, until people do this, they just don't understand how much fun these events are. And it's really, the racing is such a small part of drag and drive that it really takes someone coming in and doing it to understand, hey, just get your passes out of the way. Oh yeah, get your passes out of the way, get on the road and have some fun. See all your friends at gas stations and all that kind of stuff. So
the social part of it is huge, which it's kind of like what we like too. So that part you miss out in when you're organizing it, though. You're like they have so much fun. There we are driving away.
Right.
They had a blast. They made new friends, rekindled the relationships from last year. Yeah, there was a lot of pop.
Oh yeah. Well, let's step back just a second because you said you've owned the same car for 52 years. I got to know what that is.
66 Chevelle. It's a Canadian SS. It's a Canadian Malibu SS. Came originally with a 360 horse 396 Muncie 12 volt 373. It still has the original housing in it, rear end housing. Now has a TKX with a fairly healthy 427.
Nice.
It's got 3 pedals. It'll die with 3 pedals.
Awesome.
I always just, my friends drag racing would say, put an automatic in that thing. I said, my grandmother has an automatic.
Yeah, I hope Rich Guido's watching this. He'll enjoy that. Him and Bill Armstrong are kind of our stick shift ambassadors. So
Yes,
I'm sure they'll enjoy the stories there.
Great guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
for sure.
Well, speaking of stick shifts, my wife is in the comments here, and she did say that I forgot to mention I let her drive the 240 after that Hot Rods and Hot Eats, and she got a little heavy on the foot there, and did a little burnout when she took off in the 240.
Good for you, girl.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about why you started BC DragIt Challenge. I know you talked about kind of taking over the world with the drag and drive stuff, but what really got you going, and how did you go about getting that started?
Well, first of all, I love to organize something. And when you see something so cool, you got to be in it. You got to do it. You got to bring it to BC. There's nothing else in British Columbia, Canada like this. And it's just the coolest event concept in cars and racing, you know. So we wanted to bring people together, and people are coming from Washington, Oregon, Alberta, Saskatchewan, all over BC, northern, the island, you know, like there's a ton of places they're coming from, and they're all making friends, and they're just, you know, it's a social thing. But the concept of the drag and drive, we had to be part of it. You know, it's a lot of work. Like, seriously, I'm already started next year, but like, you know, I don't have a job, so, you know.
we were told by somebody in Alberta that they wanted to start a drag and drive in BC. And we both looked at each other and looked back at him and said, no, we're doing that.
It's easier when you live in the area too, right? So
Yep.
The tracks here are very few and far between.
Yes.
That's why we use airports.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that here in a second, because that truly is one of my questions. But I want to know, being the second year, obviously you feel like things would get easier, but they never do. So what were some of the differences between 2023's event and 2024's event?
Well, there was less meltdowns.
Oh, nice. Okay.
No, it was quite a bit calmer, like easier, because we knew what to expect. We actually set up our tech and registration a day before instead of the morning of. And
that's a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, we learned quite a bit. I have a list here, but it's quite long. You know, it's just we were more organized, even though I pride myself on being organized. More organized because we had done it before. Yeah. You know, we had the communication, we had the relationship with the tracks that we hadn't had before, you know, so some of them. Of course, we had a lot of repeat customers, racers.
That helps.
Yeah, it did.
And one thing,
a lot of promises, a lot of people that wanted to do it this year with us. Couldn't get their cars ready, but they're online with us. No, I'm coming next year for sure. Save me a spot. Blah, blah.
Yeah. We had good sponsorship that rolled over from last year. And then one of our sponsors, his Super B, what do you call it?
Calved.
Yeah. So I have a 53 GMC pickup, and it's got a big block in it. And yes, I have a heavy foot. I actually called my buddy there with the Super B and said, do you want to drive a GMC? And so he did our event in my truck.
How cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So when they had these burnout competitions, I looked for my truck there, but it wasn't. So lucky him.
He's
Anyways.
like, no pictures, please.
Right? No pictures of the 53.
Yeah.
That's probably exactly what happened.
I built it as a highway truck. So it's got
Nice.
31-inch tall tires with a 273 gear. It's not really a drag truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but hey, I bet with the torque of a big block, it'll still do some gnarly.
Oh,
work.
it's still healthy. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you're talking about returning racers and things and becoming smoother. What we've found, and then obviously what all the people that are watching us that know about Rocky Mountain Race Week, they know that the longer you have the same people attending, the more of a, I don't know, like you have people in the pits that those folks can come ask instead of having to come to the promoters and ask every time. And so that helps a ton
Yes.
to kind of alleviate some of that stress off of the promoters, which is a huge win for you guys, because then you can focus on the race and all of the brain damage that comes along with all of the stuff that happens on a drag and drive, because it's not just rent one track and everybody's there for the weekend. It's okay. Now we've got this, and now we got to drive over here, and now we got to go over here. So let me ask this: if without the guy driving your truck, because we know it's probably your favorite, but what were some of your favorite racers and favorite vehicles that were there?
Oh,
well, there's a lot of people would be upset if I called out some guys. Our favorite vehicle is probably Lori Peterson's.
yeah.
The fastest pass.
It's a 63 Falcon with a LS3 that makes way too much horsepower. The car in the quarter mile, the thing is just seriously capable of running mid-8s.
Wow.
He has real trouble getting hold of the track, but he did run a 614 at 121.7 in the 8th
That's
mile,
awesome.
and that was pedaling it.
No,
So
yeah.
it was neat to
guarantee it.
watch, but it's just a
Yeah.
gorgeous car, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Every you could ask anybody that did our event, they would say, "Yep, that car," right? Because I mean, there was a lot of nice cars,
Yeah.
a lot.
The Nova. Yeah.
The Novas and the Chevy too, or there was a Pontiac Ventura, which I don't know if you have those down there. It's a 68 to 72 Nova body. They put a Pontiac grill in the back, front and back sort of thing, right?
Yep.
But it very neat
The
car.
35.
The 35,
Yeah.
35 Ford with a 460 Ford in it. Just it could go on and on. There was a lot of what you would look at and think sketchy, but I mean, some of them had a personal hand in.
Yeah.
Some of them had a personal hand in doing part of the drivetrain for them. The one guy, he was making laps like he probably got 50 hits in the week.
It did 25 hits in 2 days.
As he's going by me, I'm saying warranty's off. Right? It just there was. I mean, the car count was good. It could be better, but it was low enough that people just made laps, lap after lap after. Some guy were one and done, but whatever. It went very well.
Yes.
We're still learning. We still made a couple of mistakes, which
he did. I did not.
No mistakes for Diane.
No.
I didn't fail anybody in tech. How's that? So.
Oh man, there you go. There you go.
I was the head of the tech department at one of the premier tracks in BC for a long time. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, what about
some of my rules are in the NHRA rule book. So
there you go.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about the route stops that you guys had.
The route.
Oh.
So I told Michael a bit about there was going to be a twist. I don't know if you remember that in an email. So day one at Cache Creek, it's an airport, and it's where Mark and I hold drag races for Cache Creek drag races twice a year. So we use that airport to start out. And so the twist was that we got everybody to sign a paper when they teched in and registered. I will not prepare my car for racing until instructed to do so. So the next morning, we have the racers meeting. Mark talks about everything. And at the last, he goes, "Oh, and by the way, there's a twist. You're going to drive straight to Prince George, which is a 5-hour drive." And
5 or 6 hours.
yeah,
right?
well, in my car, yeah. And so it's the longest, probably the longest drive of the route.
It was
and
dead,
then it was silent. It was
dead
like
silence.
my God.
You got probably 130 or so people all standing there with the mouth open. What
The hell? That's probably her idea.
They were just stunned. And we started laughing, and I got back on the mic and I said, I'm serious. Pack your shit. We're going. We're going to Prince George now.
That's
So that
about
was pretty
a
cool.
big twist. Yeah, right out of the gate to
Yeah. And
Is
he had to
you're
stop
there-
a couple guys from changing their tires,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so that was the twist the first day. So we really liked that one.
It was well received.
Yeah.
Not-
Oh yeah. There was a lot of
Not everybody. But
no, there was one that
Yeah.
wasn't too happy,
Yeah.
but she got over it.
Yeah.
The guys are like, well, you got to change it up, right? So that was cool, but I can't remember what the question was.
Route
stops. Yeah.
The routes. Yeah.
Oh,
So that's a long route. And then when we were leaving Prince George, we did the afternoon there and then the next morning. And then when we left there was a crash a couple hours out of that town and in Williams Lake before on the
About
one
halfway.
highway, 97 Highway 97. And it was a school bus crash. So everybody was quite concerned about that. It went off the road and, it took us 3 or 4 hours to get out of that town. But everybody was really good about it. We were really, really thankful that the kids were all safe and good. A few broken bones and things. But so we got out of that town. So that was a little bit of another twist. But I promised them the next day that would be the last of this twist from me and whatever. So that was unique. The town was, a big city, so they could find things to do or whatever.
A lot of people stayed that night and made the rest of the trip.
So we were going to Lillooet, and Lillooet is a very small town, and we had 15 racers come from Lillooet. So of course, they're all really glad to see us come into town, and there was a really big burnout competition that we could not be anywhere near or part of, but I tell you, holy crow, were some of those burnouts, that van, 80s van.
Yeah.
He brought 2 sets of slicks in his
street tires.
Street tires.
Yeah.
And he ended up burning off one complete set. So anyway, so Lillooet's a great stop. It's a beautiful drive off the highway into the little town. And then in Hunter Mall, we had a meet and greet at one of the car dealerships at one of our sponsors. And that again, the burnout competition just kind of fires up, right?
Yeah.
I know nothing.
Yeah.
And
And
then
get this, right across the street from the police station.
they didn't care.
They did after a while. They came over and talked.
They were
the
like,
racers
okay.
didn't seem to care.
Yeah.
So then the last night we ended up in another small town. We had to deal with a lot of small towns. So a small town right by Cache Creek, and I had the village had closed down the main street and hosted a welcome to Ashcroft for the racers. It was amazing. All the racers were parked on the street, and they had a big market and food trucks, and it was really cool. So those are my favorite spots that we went to this year. You got any other?
No. I like it all.
And the route will change next year, but the highway is the highway to Prince George, right? So you can only go up and down that one highway until they find out what Diane's got planned for next year.
Nice.
If you look at a map of BC, there's one road that goes north and south, and that's the road we take.
Yeah.
So it's not like our neighboring province where it's a square grid where you can get from point A to point B 13 different ways, right?
Yeah.
In BC, no.
Yeah.
This is why
Just
when the
one
school
way.
bus crashed, there was no alternative. There was actually one of our racers. He diligent. He found a logging road, and he took his car down this logging road. So we awarded him with shampoo and car shampoo and all this stuff the next day. But it was all logging roads. The only way you can get around it. So we just waited.
I'm out on that, especially in the race car.
Yeah.
Well,
They're not made for logging roads. Well, let's talk about airports and how that works. Like, how do you even because here's why it kicked off my curiosity is I would look at the schedule and it would say all day, and I'm like, what does that mean? So I knew like at some point you guys would be on the show, so I would ask this then. So one, how does your schedule work? And then two, how do you rent an airport, and how do they have flights coming in and out while you're racing?
Well, okay. So I
yes
just,
and no.
we go to city council and ask, and of course, like I said, Cache Creek, we use it for other races twice a year. So we have a relationship and now a contract with them, or agreement. And then we live in a small town, 100 Mile, and we asked them, and they were like pumped. They thought, this is great. These small towns, they want this entertainment, and there's only so many rodeos you can have in a town, right? So and there's a lot of car people up in this area, and the whole province actually. So that was kind of good, and we have a good relationship with Cache Creek. So of course, they contacted Cache Creek, and and they thought, okay, well, these guys know what they're doing, sort of thing. So being that they're small towns, they're eager to have an event like this or any kind of thing.
They want the tourism,
and we have the credibility now from having a couple of years at Cache Creek. So, and I put on the schedule all day, probably because of the twist. And I put on the schedule the first day, no spectators, absolutely no spectators. I had a few people calling, why can't they have a spectator? My dad took the day off, and I said, sorry, Dad, you'll figure it out, And a guy was bringing his family from the Washington border. They were going to come up
because we're not going to be here. Is why.
They would have shown up and nobody'd be there, and then they're going to be mad. So the secrets are fun, but you got to take into consideration the ones that don't really believe it's a rule. Yeah,
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, you asked another question there. Oh, that we put a NOTAM on the airport,
which is notice to airmen.
So of course, planes won't be coming in, and they usually do it the night before till the day after, just to give us that extra time. And we've held quite a few races there now, and we've had an airplane land at least every time we've had the NOTAM on. So
it can be used for emergency. We always admit that yes,
sure.
we'll shut it down. They have to contact us somehow and let us know, and go ahead, land.
Yeah. So timing system. Sorry, and because this will lead us into our class stuff. How do you bring a timing system with you? Do you have a full on deal? Makes sense.
Yes, we have a enclosed trailer, and we have a timing system that is wireless. And so we take it to the three airport. Well, we don't take it to Lillooet. We take it to 100 Mile and Cache Creek. So, and we live between those. So we just drop off everything and then carry on, and then pick it up at 100 Mile and set it up there. It doesn't take very long to set it up. So we have our crew come with us, a couple of our crew members, one that runs the timing system, and the guy that sets it up. So we had three of our crew members actually do the event this year. Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing it next year myself.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. It's too hard. I tried it for 2 years, and ours is a weekend deal, and I'm like, no, it's too hard to hold the lanes for an hour.
I wanted to bring my own car we live in 100 Mile. I wanted to bring my car. I had all set up. It's all ready to go. I wanted to bring my car to the 100 Mile drags and just sneak in and get a couple passes in. Yeah. Just to let the locals know, hey, I've seen that car around. At any rate, no, that never happened. It was just too busy.
Yeah, it's too busy for that.
So
that's awesome.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the class winners. I went over these last week, but I'm pretty sure I botched at least a few names. So correct me as I go through these. And if you want, we can talk a little bit about the passes or the cars for each class. But first is the bracket class. I'm guessing this is kind of like a dial your own class. Is that correct? Kind of you set your own average.
It's you hand in your first time slip you hand in is your dial.
Day one,
right? Yep. That's your dial for the week, right? And then after that, it's the best package, right?
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. So is it Cassie Tippy?
Yes.
Okay.
She's been drag racing a long time, even though she's really young.
She's young. She started off in junior dragsters. Her dad's been dragging forever. But she's very good. She cuts O or double O lights every time.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what does she drive?
What she drive?
Yeah.
A 65 Chevy 2-station wagon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only got a, I think he said her dad, I think he said it's got a 3.5 gear in the back. It's with a 275, I think, on it. So it easily handles the highway, but it's totally streetable. Totally. It
Nice.
runs, I think it runs 760s, 770s in the 8th mile.
We will have that
Quick.
Right.
coming to you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, no, it's a really neat car. Her dad, Daryl, has his own race car. He's a Chevy 2 fanatic. He's got a 65 two-door hardtop, I think. It runs in the 10s and the quarter. But
Nice.
yeah.
And then looks like the next one, 640 class, was Terry Raitt.
Yeah. Do you see the pictures on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, the middle picture, that was Terry. That's Terry, the long hair, long beard.
Gotcha.
Yeah, quite the funny guy. Everybody's funny, but yeah, he came from Vancouver Island. He has a shop there where he builds hot rods, I guess. Yeah, good guy.
The black
Yeah,
truck. What
and
year is this truck?
the trophies I made. I didn't
cool.
do the etching on the wood, but those all the pistons and rods on these trophies were all, if you know Chevys at all, they're all from a 66 L78 396.
Nice.
The 375 horse engine with the dimple rods and the forged pistons. That's what those are.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
He was in the 640.
he was in the 640 class, yeah, with a pickup.
Oh, nice.
What's his truck?
That's
A 70?
quick.
It's a C10. It's like the 67 to 72 style.
Okay.
I think it is a 70, right?
He won 740 last year.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's a
Yeah.
big swing.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch. Terry was with us last year, and then this year there was about 6 C10s showed up from the same area on Vancouver Island, right? And they all had LSs in them
Nice.
on, and just typical. One of these drag and drives turns into an LS fest, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, you can't beat cheap horsepower, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's crazy.
And then looks like our next class was the 740 class, and that winner was Rob Wilkie.
Rob Wilkie, that's the third picture on the right.
Yeah.
Him and his dad. They're from his dad's from Vancouver Island. I know that because he used to race in Port Alberni when I was the race director there. We ran on the airport there. Yeah, good guy. He just like any what makes drag racing to me is so family and community. Rob here, this winter, the Chevy van we keep talking about, he when he left on the last day after the awards and everything, so he pulls down the bottom of the hill, gets onto the highway, nails it, does a burnout, blows the engine up.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That was one of 3 engines that blew.
Nice.
And so he pulled off the side. Rob's going by he's got a semi with a big trailer behind it with his G body on it. And so he stops. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. They talk. Rob comes back up to the airport, asks if he can leave his race car there. He goes back down, picks up this guy's van, and takes him to the neighboring town, like an hour and a bit away. So the guy just people just help people all the time, right? It's such a community. It gives you goosebumps thinking about it. But yeah, Rob, super guy.
Cool. And then looks like got a few more classes here. And stick class was Jaden Olenek.
Olenek.
All right.
Olenek. Yeah, young guy with a Mustang, 5-liter Mustang.
Okay.
Wasn't real quick, but he had the best package. We at the beginning of the drivers' meeting on the first day, he said, "How many stick cars here?" We've got like 21 people put their hands up, and I said, "Okay, let's put this to a vote. Do you want to run bracket or do you want to run the fastest car?" Well, typically the fastest car, the guy who spent the most money, right? So I was going to go either way, but it went 14 for bracket and 7 for quick, right? So they all went bracket. Not everybody was happy. That's, that was unfortunate. We're going to change that next year. But yeah,
Something you learn.
So everybody, a lot of people were complaining they wanted to go, the quickest car. Even a Volkswagen wanted to go quickest car. Nowhere near quick, but whatever. So it's a learning thing, right?
Yeah.
The young man there, Jaden, you obviously see my wife beside him. The one on his other side is his bride to be, and Diane keeps asking if we're going to get invited to the wedding.
So much, I think I scared him. He was actually a co-pilot last year.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
Cool.
The next guy was a co-pilot last year too. The next trophy.
The truck one, which looks like Royce Foster.
Right.
Royce Foster, yes. He's one of our sponsors. He owns a torque converter company in Victoria, BC, on the island, Vancouver Island. And I bought many converters from him. He's fixed a lot for me, for customers' cars.
He had a Dodge pickup?
Yeah, he had a Dodge pickup. He was with all the C10 guys. He was the oddball, but he had a Hemi.
Oh, that's cool.
He had the newer Hemi in it, right? He had fun. There was who's next?
Rob.
Looks like the class was quick. What is that class?
That's the I forget what you would call it in any other one. It's the fast guys.
Okay. Kind of like an unlimited. Gotcha.
Unlimited. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. It could be squeezed. It could be nitrous. It could be anything.
Okay. And so that was Rob Monroe.
That was Rob Monroe, and he had a Nova, and that one I can remember. His average was in the mid sixes, right?
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful car.
Beautiful car. But
yeah.
I mean, well, they got to drive it, right? So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to drive a low 10-second car on the street for that many miles and do highway speeds, right? So
Yep.
yeah.
And then it looks like our last one with fastest street car in BC was Lori Peterson.
Lori
Yeah.
Peterson.
The fast pass you said was the 614 at 121.
Yeah, that's the 63 Falcon. Right?
He won quick last year.
He won quick last year as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But he won quick last year, and he had fastest time last year.
But he beat it out this year. Yeah.
So the trophy he's got there is like getting me a memorial trophy. He gets it has a plaque on the front on the cup area, and on the very bottom of it, it's a wooden base, and it has a little tiny crest on there that has his name on it with the ET, right, and the date. So we got to get another one of those made with his name again.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He's got that Falcon, that beautiful Falcon that we really.
Yeah. He built it himself too.
Yeah.
So.
That's
Nice.
awesome. Well, what about this is probably too early, but you said you're already working on 2025. I mean, like any dates or estimated month you're trying to land in for 2025?
Well, we're thinking, it's been the same weekend pretty much the last couple of years. We were trying to coordinate with another drag and drive that's in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we did overlap with them. Mark got a hold of him a little too late in his date setup and our date setup. So we have reached out already. I don't know. He's maybe in Hawaii or Mexico or something, and we're here like doing this. But we're working on our next year, and he's off vacationing. Good for him.
That's awesome.
So we would like to coordinate because we know it's. What did we figure out? Yeah,
We lost at least a couple of guys that came to our race last year.
but the drive from there to here,
Yeah.
it's 2 days.
Yeah, it's a 2-day drive for us. Yeah.
So we thought it'd be really cool.
Hold on. From
if they did.
Montana. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Montana, a couple days drive here, do ours. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And it's awesome to hear you say that, because I think we're going to see more of that moving forward with promoters kind of working together, especially, I mean, again, we go back to June being the craziest month.
Yes.
More than 1,000 racers, 24 different tracks across the world visited during the month of June. Like, that's a lot. be around there. So it's pretty awesome to be working together for that. Well, guys, I want to say thank you so much for coming on tonight. We really appreciate you being here, and thanks for taking the time out, and thank you for hosting the Drag and Drive event. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having us on here.
Yeah.
That's just great. You guys promote every Drag and Drive, and it's just so
Yeah.
we're so thankful that you do that and have
We
these.
appreciate that.
We
These live
feel like
shows.
somebody's now.
You are somebody's. What are you talking about?
Right.
You just hosted a successful Drag and Drive event in one of the busiest months that we've ever seen. So congratulations to you guys, and thank you again.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Eric.
you.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah,
And
thanks,
just
guys.
real quick, while you guys are on here, you can go follow and see all the cool stuff from 2023 and 2024 on BC DragIt Challenge on Facebook. It's probably the best place to find you. I mean, is there anywhere else that you post more?
We have a website too.
Oh yeah, give us that, and then we got to go.
bcdragit.ca and a YouTube channel as well.
Perfect, awesome.
Thanks.
We're going to share all that stuff down in the description once the video's over. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yep. See you guys.
How fun, dude! I'm telling you, we need to make the rounds in Canada. We need to do some Canadian drag and driving, as we add to our schedule for 2025. So definitely appreciate them coming on. Let's get to some events that are coming up. July 2024. This is crazy. We've got another big month. Street Week Sweden kicks off this weekend, July 6th through 13th. Midwest Drags kicks off early next week, the 8th through the 12th. Road trip. Okay, hang on. Let's go backwards. Let's do this. Sweden. You got Middle America, Kentucky. Then you've got Road Trip Drag Challenges in Australia. Okay, it's July 19th through 21st. Miles of Mayhem in Canada, July 21st through 26th. And Heads Up Hustle in Michigan, July 26th through 28th.
So
Dude,
Sweden.
You can't get all over the
Right.
world. Sweden, Kentucky, Australia, Southeast Australia, Canada, and then the Midwest again, or upper whatever you would call Detroit area, Milan, Michigan. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be pretty
Dude,
wild.
that's pretty wild.
Yeah. I need to do a world map of that because that's pretty awesome. And we're looking again, obviously things aren't laying over each other like they were for June, but you have 2 week-long events, 2 national level events that are occurring at the same time between Street Week Sweden and Midwest Drags. So that's kind of cool. And then you've got what would kick off like the weekend of the 19th through the 20, or the week of the 19th through the 28th, which is what, 10 days there. You have a drag and drive every day for the month of July. One thing that is cool about this is you're looking at events pushing north more, right? So what I like about that is what we just saw with Rocky Mountain Race Week and how hard the heat was being in Texas and Oklahoma in the month of June, late June. We can start looking at northern type events, Midwest Drags in Kentucky, it's going to be hot. Get ready. But Miles of Mayhem is probably going to be nice. It's probably going to be in the 80s or low 90s, not in the low 150s like it was on Rocky Mountain. But it's kind of cool, man. And again, I'll be at Heads Up Hustle. That is my first, like, me by myself in the tower. That's going to be, I'm usually color commentary for any kind of announcing that I do. So it's going to be kind of interesting there for sure.
So starting this Saturday for the month of July, there's only 1 week where there is an event going on this month.
Yep.
Still, that's crazy to think, though.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Bring it on. And August is shaping up to be a good month as well. There's several events across the world in August, and then September we just go ham again. We need an airplane, dude. We need an airplane. So again, thank you to the Driven team. It was awesome to hang out with them at Six Summer. Being around those guys, they truly have a love for drag and drive racers. It really is an art form for Bill. If you have oil related questions, if you change your oil and they are there, just bring the oil pan over. Let him take a look. He was telling us a story while we were having drinks the last night there that, he's swirling this pan around, looking at the different stuff in the bottom, and this guy had been using a pretty lightweight oil, so they moved him up a little bit, and there was less stuff in the bottom of the pan. They moved him up again the next day, and it was even less in the bottom of the pan. So Raj, you definitely know a guy. DrivenRacingOil.com, buddy. Get on there and do some shopping. We know those same guys. Yeah, love Raj and the Rovic from the Yukon, man. He's one of the coolest guys that's out there.
Yeah,
All
there's
right.
some cool photos of him in that last album too, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, big
It
time
looks
stuff.
like you got another note here about one more event. Cruise and
Yes.
Lose working on an October 5th event.
Yep. So I messaged those guys today and I was like, what are you talking about? What does this mean? What's happening October 5th? And they said, man, we're working on all the details. It's going to be kind of like a weekend deal, maybe just a single day deal where you do a little bit of a drive and then some drag racing. Sounds like it's going to be hosted at Kearney, which is always a good thing. Love that track from all the time that Rocky Mountain Race Week spends there. And then, of course, Cruise and Lose hosts their drag and drive event in April there as well. So I don't know, man. I love it. It's great that there's one big benefit of the amount of reach that the drag and drive community is providing for promoters and tracks, because now, even if it is just a single day event, and maybe it's not like maybe it's like a 30 or 40 mile cruise or whatever, but they're reaching into that drag and drive community and they're like, hey, do you want to come hang out and do this drag and drive event? So it's going to be really awesome.
Sweet.
All right. What's Johnny saying here? Oh.
He said, thank you for all the coverage you two do for us. I'm still living on the high off of 6 Summer.
Man, I'm telling you, the drag and drive hangover is tough. I love it. It's
Yes.
because it's like a couple days of down when you go to a restaurant and there's no cool cars there. You drive past gas stations, there's no cool cars there. But then all the photos begin to kind of start popping up, and you get to live back through that with Facebook, and then and it's like, okay, when's the next event? Yeah, I'm telling you, it's awesome.
Because you're so used to driving, from track to track, and you're like, cool car, race car friend everywhere.
Yep.
And then you come back home and you're still kind of like, there's nobody here.
Yeah.
It's such a disappointment to not have cool cars around you on the road at all times.
Yep, that's exactly right. Well, let's jump into some fun stuff here. I want to talk about, almost there. I want to talk about our buddies. I saw Chris Wozniak in the comments earlier. Waf Racing is putting out a new product that we talked about on the show last week. I think that was last week. Feels like a year ago now. They're putting out the product that they talked about then. So it is going to drop tomorrow. Yes. And there's a discount code, but I'm not giving you the discount code until the end of the video plays.
All right. You want me to go ahead and hit that video?
Hit it, dude.
All right, let's go.
All right, so we've created these tools for tuning a Holley carburetor, but we really wanted to come up with a sleek carrying case for it that not only carried the tools, but incorporated some spare parts storage. After many attempts and a bunch of prototypes here on the table, we are finally to a point where we've got one we're happy with and we're excited to show it to you. So what's in the box?
That's right. You don't get to see what's in the box yet. You got to wait until tomorrow, and it'll be out. He says sometime around 9 a.m., but here's what's really cool. Guys, Chris and them are giving us a 20% discount. 20% discount. So all you carburetor guys, all you Holley carburetor guys, this is your chance to shine and have your little box that you're going to carry in your toolkit all the time. The discount code, you want to hear what it is?
What is it?
Race Car Friends.
Yes.
20% off. So I've got some artwork that'll go up in the morning as they do that. So wafracing.com or Waf Racing on Facebook and Instagram. You can find all this stuff there. But again, 20% discount for using the phrase race car friends. So I'm really excited about those guys having that and allowing us to really kind of get in the middle of all this. I'm not really a carburetor guy, but this is one of the things that is important to all the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's talk about Mach-E Motorsports because I got to hang out with those guys.
Riding these rides. Is that race car friends?
Yeah, no, it's got an R in it. It's got an R in it, I promise. Well, attention, high performance enthusiasts and sportsman class racers. Meet the Mach-E Motorsport Power Pack Kit, your ultimate solution for Power Pack performance. The Power Pack pistons are made from either 4032 aluminum alloy to allow for tighter cylinder to wall clearances and improved temperature stability, or 2618 alloy to allow for increased detonation resistance. Tailored for various engine families from small block Chevrolet to Volkswagen and Audi, we they've got you covered. What sets Mach-E pistons apart? They are forged pistons, graphol coating, and phosphate treatments for peak performance and durability. Elevate your ride with Mach-E Motorsport, where performance meets precision. For the podcast listeners out there, Mach-E is spelled Mahle. So obviously we put up a post. We love co-pilot stories. We feel like co-pilots are some of the most important people in the car with you while you're doing a drag and drive. So of course we had to ask, send us some co-pilot pics, tell us some stories. And I love this first batch here. On the left is Justin Yeager, posted up by Jeremy Ortiz, posted a pic him asleep at one of the tracks on 6 Summer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of shots. I'm sure if Eric was with me on 6 Summer in the same car, I'd have been doing the same thing as well. It was pretty tough out there. And then Austin, who actually did the circuit and 6 Summer, posted a pic of his family in the wagon on one of the drives on Rocky Mountain Race Week. Sorry, I said 6 Summer on Rocky Mountain Race. He did the circuit and Rocky Mountain Race Week. One of his wife and one of the sons is asleep. And here's what he said: she's gonna hate me for it, but she kept track of our 3 kids while I worked on the car and trailer and made passes. He said his main job was to make sure the AC worked for the whole trip.
There you go.
And that's her asleep in the front seat and one of them boys asleep in the middle of the back. Dude, look at that wagon. Look how packed that thing is.
Yeah. Is there a rear window there? I don't see one.
Nope. I don't see one either. And then Scott Franks posted this up from his son sleeping in the back seat while we were on Midwest Drags one day last year. And then
You know who took that picture?
Mr. Eric White.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of their favorite pictures, to be honest, because I see it come up pretty, I would say regularly, and it is just a great shot of what it takes to do drag and drive. Sometimes you got to catch you an afternoon nap.
Oh yeah. Anytime I see opportunities like this, I always sneak in a picture.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then Daniel Romansky, he sent in a deal for our Mach-E Motorsport co-pilot spotlight on the website, and he said about his wife Sarah, said the best story is my co-pilot put the directions down for the route and said we won't need these for a while. Then approximately 5 miles later, we missed our turn and had to backtrack. Oops, done that. And this is her helping switch over the head on their car. I mean, like, that's the kind of co-pilot you need. Somebody's
Yeah,
gonna
if
get in
she's
there and help.
yeah, if she's getting in there and helping with that, then I think you can forgive her for those backtracking a little bit.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I want to say thanks again to Mach-E Motorsports for being a part of our program here. And then also it was great to see Eric. He raced his 10-second stick shift Nova on Rocky Mountain Race Week. Also, George was out there at Rocky Mountain Race Week working the booth. And then I was in St. Louis and got to see Joe Malish, who also works at Mach-E Motorsports in North Carolina. Got to see him while he was at the Midwest Drag Race Series race.
Nice.
It was like Mach-E everywhere, man. It's kind of probably another reason I'm wearing my hat today. They're just in my brain. So if you guys are needing some special stuff, if you want your pistons to last longer, if you want some, I don't know, insight into that stuff, hit us up. We'll get you in contact with those guys at Mach-E. They really have helped a lot of drag and drive racers get to that next level in their programs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. And again, Mach-E, Mahle is how it's spelled. You can find it everywhere. Well, if you'll run us into the Howard's Cams community segment here, I'm going to message our next guest. Actually, hang on. Let's do the gentleman's agreement first.
Let's
Because
do that.
dude, you guys know the deal. Like we love doing this. We really do. I love to travel. I love meeting all the racers, stuff like that. But it's not inexpensive, right? And it takes a ton of time. So here's what we need. We need you, as part of your gentleman's agreement, we need you to hit that follow or share button wherever you're watching this. Do that for us, please, and then we'll continue to work on this side. We obviously can't know if you do it or not, but it helps us get more sponsors, show the sponsors that we do have more love, and show that they are that they're getting out there. And of course, if you do that, that's going to make you one of our race car friends. Dude, like, why wouldn't you want to be one of our race car friends? That helps us make it through these long nights that we're up working through all of this stuff. So we appreciate everybody that is a race car friend that's out there. And then thank you for our sponsors, Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports, Driven Racing Oil, Car Chains 3D, who we need to have Corey back on soon. Dude, he is crushing products right now on the 3D printer. It's crazy. Yes, Waf Racing was on last week with us. Again, dude loves carburetors, man. I love it. He also loves late model stuff. Don't get me wrong, but he's doing the Lord's work, keeping carburetors alive. And then Performabuilt Transmissions, Ryan and the team over there are amazing. They are the official transmission builder of Drag Driver Pete. Howard's Cams, Luke B and the team up there. Dude, if you need valve train knowledge, if you need valve train parts, they're your guy. Sweet Patina, awesome apparel. The TKO hand cleaning wipes. Listen, if you're not cleaning your hands with TKO hand cleaning wipes, there's something wrong with you. Just got to do it. They're the best. They smell the best. And I'll tell you, I've used a lot of them. They are the best out there. Racing Junk Classifieds created an entire segment of ability to list your car on our suggestion. So please, RacingJunkClassifieds.com, RacingJunk.com to get over there and look at the Drag and Drive segment. We do that every Saturday morning. Eric picks a car to feature on that because, guys, they created that after we asked for it. So we asked for you guys. That gives you an opportunity. And then, of course, PowerTube TV, where all of this stuff is here, plus a lot of exclusive content. We have our own channel within the PowerTube app and within the PowerTube website with video on demand. You can go back and watch any episode right there on your TV or on your computer or your phone, wherever you want to do that. So pretty
yes,
awesome.
sir.
And then if you'll read the PowerTube ad read there, I'll message Alan and see where they're at.
All right. PowerTube TV is your destination for automotive entertainment. Enjoy the free web-based site, mobile app, or on Roku, Android, Fire, and Apple TVs. Dive into your favorite automotive shows, shorts, and podcasts. We are thrilled to partner with PowerTube TV, created by enthusiasts. It's transforming automotive programming. Watch replays of our show and exclusive content from us and other creators. You can also enjoy classics like Pink's All Out, and Pastime, along with new reboots and original content. Experience automotive entertainment like never before on PowerTube TV. Speed, power, and community await. Find out more at watchpowertubetv.com.
Awesome. You know why he's not in the backstage there? It's because I forgot to send him the link.
That'll do it there.
Hey, that'll do it every time. So while he comes up, while we get to there and get him ready, Alan, I see you back here, bud. Let's run through something real quick. Let's kick off a few things with Howard's Cams, and then we'll bring Alan on to talk about his experience doing the drag and drive in an EV.
Yep. Let me hit this promo video, and then we will be good to go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Harris from the Monoxide Podcast. Real quick, Howard's Cams was founded as a racing cam manufacturer almost 80 years ago when Howard Johansson created Howard's Power and Racing Equipment in 1945. Howard's Cams has always used on-track experience to design the most powerful designs, and today they have an even greater group of experienced racers in circle track, drag racing, road race, mud bog, and marine. They use all this input plus the most advanced computer software to design the most competitive race-winning products. From pioneers in drag racing and oval track to cutting-edge marine development, Howard's Cams is at the forefront of the industry. So make sure to reach out to our friend Luke B for your next valve train upgrade.
All right. Well, I want to talk about this first thing here. This was one of my favorite cars, and I hate to say gimmick because it's not a gimmick, but one of my favorite things of the entire week at Rocky Mountain. These dudes just cruising around with. I literally even left the bag under the cup carrier. It was awesome, man.
That's hilarious.
I passed them on the highway. If you guys want to see the video of me driving by them, it's on YouTube right now. I'll be posting it other places as we get closer. But yeah, PJ Schultz, said that's me and Brandon Williams. He said there are magnets bolted under the drink holder through the cups. He said, you'd be surprised how many people tell you that you left your drinks on top of the car while you're doing 65 miles an hour down the highway, and how many people get out of their car at stoplights to grab them for you.
I wonder Yeah, I wonder what happens when somebody tries to grab one.
And
If
it's like stuck to it. They're like, give me
Yeah.
this street carrier.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Then they're
And-
probably yelling at you at that point because now
Oh,
they're
yeah.
pissed. Now they're pissed they
Yeah.
got out of their car just to
Oh,
help
I
you. And
hate
it was
this prank, dude. I'm gonna have to do this. This is legendary. I thought this was an
Yeah.
awesome prank for sure. And
yeah,
then
that's cool.
I listened to the Gearhead Perspective podcast today. If you guys aren't listening to that, there's something wrong with you. These guys have a blast. And John Doherty was on Rocky Mountain with us. And so it's a great show. John talks about his experience from the event. One thing that's really crazy is he had a carb stud break while they're driving, literally just break and fall into the carburetor through the intake valve into the piston area. Yeah.
Oof.
Crazy. Said it made all kinds of racket. So they get out there checking stuff, pull it all the way down, pull the driver's side head off because that's where he heard stuff. They put it all back together 4.5 hours later, start the car up. It's the same noise. They didn't take the passenger head off. So they had to pull all of that back apart and put it all back together. Yeah. So they were on the side of the road for like 9 hours or something like that. And in talking to John, the way they kind of pulled off after the stop sign was they were actually behind a grove of trees, so none of the drag and drive racers that drove by there could have seen them. So he said it ended up being a blessing because then they could just get over there and work instead of having to, hey, what's going on? What do you need? You have parts, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff the whole time. They could just get over there and do work. But they worked in the 100-degree heat under a canopy, pulling both heads off of a big block Chevrolet and a Nova.
Yeah, that does not sound like a fun time.
No, it doesn't sound like fun at all. But I do want to give him a big congratulations. Him and his son, who's his co-pilot, took second place in NA Big Block, and that is a huge accomplishment. Mid tens in that kind of heat is awesome. And so that's 2 more trophies he's got on his list because he won the NA Big Block class at the circuit, and now he's taking home second place in NA Big Block for Rocky Mountain Race Week, which is a big deal because there were like, I don't know, 13 or 14. Hang on, let me see how many cars were in that class. Sorry, I have it pulled up here. Hold, please. I'm trying to get everything ready for the stuff. Yeah, there were 11 cars in that class, and he won by literally 200ths of a second.
Dang.
Yeah, 25 thousandths was his average. In second place by 25 thousandths.
That's wild.
Intense. Yeah, he was faster on day 1, but not by much. He was faster on day 3 by more than a tenth, but he was slower on the other 2 days by more than a tenth. So yeah, I mean, he just barely lost that one. He could have taken another win home. But after you spend 10 hours on the side of the road, you're like, hey, do I really need to lean on this thing very much? Because it had beat some stuff up. Again, John Doherty, go find him. They've got the pictures and stuff on the Gearhead Perspective podcast Facebook page. It's pretty nuts what it did. It's really a blessing that nothing was destroyed because one of those pieces was like this long. Like, I don't know how it even got itself down in there, but it did. That's for sure. All right. Well, let's bring on Alan here in just a second, guys. I want you to understand this guy. Him and his wife took first and second place in the 13.0 index. Absolutely crazy. We're going to ask how he did it. And then in an EV, now there was a lot of conversation around that I had to ask him. Every time I saw him, I had to go ask, dude, how's it going? What are you looking for? All that kind of stuff. So we're going to answer those questions tonight with Mr. Alan. Alan, how do you say your last name?
Hello, Ledesma.
Oh, cool. I was right. All right. Good. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
a little bit confusing at first.
Yeah. Well, introduce yourself. Tell everybody, kind of how you came to race this Mach-E Mustang.
Sure. So I started off on race week in 21 with a Whipple supercharged S550 that I had bought, and it's just something kind of always wanted, a nice Whipple setup. And I had some friends that had went on race week in 20, and of course back then we had it out here at SRCA, and I went out and watched, and they just kept telling me, man, you got to try this. This is a one of a kind thing, and it's just extremely cool. And I'm like, man, I kind of like the idea, of a drag and drive and kind of get out on the road, just you in the car. You can't really have much to support you, if you will. So in 21 rolled around. I tried to get in. Of course, it sells out super quick, 30 seconds to a minute, and it's sold out. So we were immediately put on the wait list. And I decided that, man, I got to get in this thing. And I knew that probably there would be some people that would not make it, that would call in the day of. And I know they start a list to where you can go to the event trailer, the live list, and if you're there and ready, you're going to go. And I knew that if I was probably in the top 2 or 3 of those, we would probably be in. So what we did was we took some lawn chairs and we set those up right in front of the event trailer at 3 a.m. and watched the sunrise. And we were first on that list, man. And I loved it. And we wanted to go that badly. That's how much my other friends had spoke of this event. So Rocky Mountain Race Week for me was born. And so we went on in 21 and 22 with the same car, although I pulled a trailer with it in 22 because we had packed the car full. The spare tires are in the back seat, and at every track you're ripping stuff out. And I'm like, I think I'd rather that's it right there, actually, in 22 at the checkpoint. And so my wife is at home with our newborn at the time, and my wife is, of course, a racer as well, and she's been down the drag strip a few times. And she told me in 21, she said, or 22, she said, man, you need to step back because I'm going. So she has the Explorer ST over here that we had been playing with, and got it pretty consistent, in the 13.0 range. And I said, well, okay, you know what? It'll be kind of nice just to take a back seat on this, if you will, or a co-pilot position, and cook some hamburgers and just watch your race.
Yeah.
So her racing event on Race Week was born then as well. And so fast forward to, SRCA has had some issues, and they're working through that, and we no longer have a drag strip. And all of a sudden, it's like a lot of the things I was told of, you don't realize how nice you have it, with a drag strip in your backyard. And that started to really hit home. But we didn't want to quit doing Race Week. We didn't want to, give up on any of that because we just love the event so much. So we have to keep going. It's just a great group of people, and they've always been so good. So I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, the Whipple car is great, but without a set of tires, it's not the best when you try and get it consistent. And as far as driving around town, I mean, with the child and taking her to daycare and whatnot, it just doesn't work the best, with a 2-door. And we drive separate vehicles to work some days, so that one was consumed. So the idea of moving to a Mach-E was born. And that was born of the fact that those things, they were new. I love technology. I love new things. I like to try stuff. I switch up vehicles, every few years, with the exception of the S550 being the longest I've owned. But and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to try this. And then the idea starts going in the head. It's like, man, I kind of want to try it on Race Week. I want that challenge. I want to see if I can do this. And it really wasn't about the racing part so much at the time. It was just, can I get this thing charged enough to make it through the event?
Yeah.
Because you start getting out on the road. I got the car in December, and I had messed around with our Ford Lightning at work that we had for a while. I'd taken it out of town well before that. I got used to kind of the EV side with that. And then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'll mess with this thing for a few years until maybe we get a track back. And then we'll just kind of reassess then. But until then, I kind of want to just dive into it a little bit. And that's kind of how it was born.
Man,
that's crazy.
Listen, Alan was probably tired of me coming over talking to him. The first
Not at all.
Every time I was by your pits, there were people talking. If there wasn't anybody talking, I would come by and talk and ask how things were going. And I think you did a great job of answering all that kind of stuff. And that's what we're going to do tonight. So let's talk about kind of like, obviously it makes sense. You've got a child, you're trying to move around, you're trying to get to and from, daycare and all that kind of stuff. And so like, it's a small SUV, right? And so as you do that, it becomes like, this makes way more sense. But I don't know, how much hate did you get, especially on Facebook, dude? You got a lot of like, people didn't like it at all. But did you get that in the pits?
No. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was shocked, but I wasn't. And I put that in a lot of my online posts. Even it's like some of the event, coordinators, the people that put on the event, Matt and June, Adam, all them. I had conversations with a few of those before this even started. I was like, man, I love this event, and it's kind of a vacation for a lot of us. Like that's what I used it for, going to Colorado. We didn't really put a whole lot of effort into the racing side. We just went out. If the pass was close, hey, here's a slip, it's close. We're going to go watch some racing, watch some of these really cool cars run, enjoy the evening. That's how we ran it. And so when I went on with this idea, I had kind of shot that out there, and I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I don't want it to be something that's completely rejected, because then if so, then I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to ruin it for everyone else. I don't want to have the tension. And I think the best way it was put to me, is what one of them said. It's like, some will love it, some will hate it. So is the world. And, that rings really true. And so that's how the actual plan was put into motion. And as far as when we showed up, nothing, man. It's everybody had questions, and everybody wanted to know the curiosities. I tried to
let
keep
me ask
track.
you're coming in, you're like, all right, man, listen, it's gonna be a get out, and then the people are like really nice, and they're like, hey, how does this work? And you're like, hang on,
Right.
this is weird.
Right. It's almost like pull out the notepad and go to page 47. Oh, here's exactly how that works. Would you like me to read 80 paragraphs? Because that's me. Any of the people that know me know that I am extremely analytical like that, and I love the details, and
That's
I love to share that. So there was not, we were very careful about that through the week. I kind of wanted the feedback, and I wanted to stray away from any situations that were not to my liking, and not a one. Everybody that came through those pits, everybody that walked through and talked to me was just genuinely curious. And it struck me in just such a unique way. And it really drove home the fact of how the type of people that are on, that event, and others, I'm sure too, but it's just atypical of what I've experienced across all the years I've went on that event.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you talked about the Mustang a little bit. Was it stick, automatic? How did you do in the 12.0 class?
Sure. So it was an auto car. It was an A6, and it did okay. Like I said, we really didn't put a lot of effort into our racing program, if you could call it that, I guess. During those early times, it's like I just love being there. Of course, there's always in the back of your mind, especially with a car like that's making 200-300 horsepower more than it's come out with, that it might break. So in your mind, it's like you got to get home. That's also part of the endurance side. So when I would go up there and make a pass, I've raced for a number of years. I was never super good at it, but we had a drag strip. I did some bracket, and I kind of had an idea, of what I needed to do. I had the car fairly figured out, and we did okay. I was in the 12.0 class, and, I'd turn in on some days like a 12.08. I was looking at the results right before this because I thought this might come up, and like a 12.10. And I was like, you know what? That's cool. I mean, I think I might be in the top 15. That's fine with me. And never really got super crazy with trying to just hit that number and just be the competitor side of it, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, one last question here. Why the Mach-E and not like the Lightning truck or some of the other EVs that are on the market?
Sure. So I am a Ford senior master technician for the last 20 years here at the same dealer in Great Bend. And I had looked at Tesla. I looked at Model S Plaid because EVs are somewhat pricey. Lightning was above what I could afford still. Even we have one that I could have purchased even. But Mach-E, with your incentives and everything stacked on top, was within the price range that I was in.
Oh, cool.
So we actually had two of them on the lot at the time, and one of which is the exact same color, the one I have now, as the S550 I had, which I do love the magnetic or the carbonized gray, I believe this one's called. That's just my thing. So dealer principal got to talking to me a little bit, and the things aren't exactly hot movers right now. It just depends on if you want one or not. And so we got some conversation going, and pretty soon the numbers started lining up, and I'm like, cool, I'll play with that for a little bit. So
you mean a car salesman was trying to sell you a car?
They're all really good at it too.
Yeah, dang it.
So yeah, I looked at a Kia EV6 because they're faster. You can run in 11s out of the box. I looked at a Tesla, quite a few models of Tesla, but here's the issue. With the geographic isolation we have here as far as vehicle service, there just isn't a way for me to be able to get that It's going to happen. Everything's new. Everything breaks. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to send it out. In Tesla's case, the closest major service center for us is almost 4 hours away. And you're going to be without your car, and there's going to be some logistical issues even getting it there. So, if provided they don't come and get it, but either way, but with it being a Ford product, I mean that's what I do day in and day out. I've done it for 20 years now at the same dealer, and I do a little bit of everything. So, it's nice to have a product that you not only know inside and out, but that you can service and work on literally at your very own job.
Well, and again, it goes back to if something is completely haywire and you run into some real issues, you have 20 years of, relationships built with Ford reps, and you can tell somebody something and they know that you're serious because you're not a new guy. And then also, Master Tech and the relationships you have with everybody there is, it just makes sense.
Right. And we don't have any special rules we can bend as far as warranty or anything like that. It's a question I get quite often. You work there or you work for Ford and you can do this and that. I'm like, no, we actually all have to play by the same rules. It's the same as like when I had the Whipple car. Manufacturer powertrain is questionable with a blower on it. We kind of pick and choose what could have been warranty if that situation arises. It's just a risk you take.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, walk us through a little bit of the planning phase, the logistics of bringing an EV, back roads of Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri. What was that planning and logistics like, knowing you were going to be doing all this driving?
Sure. So that was a big phase of this. Like I had already completed several out of town trips with my family at that point, put quite a few miles on this car to get a sense of how the public charging worked and how far you could push the car on the road before, you risk being dead. And I ran into one scenario right when I first got the car as you're learning the car that I almost did have to have it towed. I think I was down to like 2% battery by the time I got to my driveway. It was, you're biting the nails, man. Here's the other side of that. I have, my family in the car. It's below freezing out. I mean, you do the math there, it could be bad. And it's like it could happen. And so you have to learn that an EV takes a different type of driver and you have to learn and understand the vehicle. And so I spent a lot of the early months doing that in preparation for this race. The second part of that was this year, I think, was a little more pivotal for me as far as this race being more successful, simply because I've only been in it since 21, but to my knowledge, it's the only year that I've seen them release the drive routes ahead of time. And the minute that was announced, I mean, it's like my head's like, oh, this is awesome, because what I need to do is plan these charging stops. And I know Michael and I were talking about this when he topped in the pits, and I opened the app and I showed him all these little gas pump balloons across the state of Oklahoma. And that's our gas pump is an EV charger. And you could just see how that Oklahoma had done such a fantastic job of building out this charging network for these DC fast chargers in the areas that we were going to be in. So when I got the routes released, it was like, hey, I can do this because I can literally plan my charging stops now, and this is going to help me. It's just a piece of the puzzle that helps, but then we got to talk about the actual charge times. But so there was one particular part of the route that was difficult for us, and I had a plan B in the U-Haul trailer, which was a 13,000 watt generator, and that was our ultimate. I can't be towed because then you're disqualified. And I figured that in the event that we were doing okay, there you go. Yeah, that U-Haul right there. In the event that we were doing decent in the race, I knew that I didn't want to risk, running dead and being DQ'd over such a thing. And so we ended up not needing the generator all week. That was my basically primary goal of this whole thing was we're not pulling that out. I told my co-pilots, I said, that's coming out right before I tell you guys that you're all worn out from pushing. That's the last thing we'll do. Because for me, that's the challenge, one of the few that I really wanted. Just can we do this without falling into what you see all over the internet if you believe everything you read on the internet? And so we were able to accomplish that. But there's one route between let me pull up the map here real quick. I had that up. It's when we left Tulsa, and I can't remember the names. My co-pilots will tell you the same thing, that all week I'm spouting off stuff that I can't even remember here because the names just are beyond me. It was Bristow. So there was a route between Bristow and Denison, Texas, that it's like 140 something mile gap, I believe. if you went from just Bristow to Denison, if I recall. And the car's range with the trailer falls somewhere between 130 to 160 miles. And that depends on a multitude of factors, like wind load, wind buffeting, air conditioning use. And then these cars actually, when it gets above a certain temperature outside, they have to keep the battery cool. Like it's automatic. You have no say in it. And it started to kick in, which then eats into your range because you're using electricity to produce that cooling. We're driving down, going good on this route. I've already selected the chargers we're going to stop at, and I have a backup charger in case one of them doesn't work, because the PlugShare app allows you to look at reviews of that charger, and this one just had not good reviews. Like it probably wasn't going to work. And if it didn't, it created a little bit of a strain on our drive. We would be pushing that maximum range. And so we start down on this route. I look over, it's getting really hot out, really hot week. And we're starting to do battery conditioning going down the road, which means the car's saying, hey, the battery's getting too hot. We got to keep it cool. We're going to run the air in the chiller. We're going to cost you some mileage doing that, when we're already up against a finite amount of mileage to get that gap closed.
Yeah.
So there was one charger about 9 miles, I believe, east in a town called Okima that we could break route. I could grab a full charge there and then go back on route, burning, effectively 18 miles of that range just to do that. But it would then reset that 30-mile gap I had done from Bristow, and that would probably get us past that bad charger if it would turned out to be bad. It did. We showed up, we pulled up, we plug in, nothing. And called into their tech support, and it's like the last thing you can do is like, help me. And they're pretty much like, I'm sorry, it's just what it is. And that's a very real thing with driving an EV. It's not super common in my travels, but it's very possible that you can show up to your gas pump and the gas pump is off. And if you've pushed it too far, if you haven't budgeted properly, and you're pulling a trailer in a vehicle that specifically Mach-E is not necessarily designed to pull a trailer as per the OEM, and your range is cut down, then you can have a situation.
Yeah. That'd be a real situation for sure.
Right. And so we were able to avert it because that charger did not work, but I had planned for this. I knew that we could make Denison, Texas to the Tesla site there if we were careful. And so I put my team through quite a bit of pain on that one, if you will. And, I'm talking on an EV, you can do a couple things to gain some range. You can slow down, which gains a decent amount of range because it's just electric motors running to keep it moving. So you slow down the motor, slow down the current. And you can turn off the air, roll down the windows, and drop that load. We call it load shedding. And so that's what we did for basically the distance between that particular town, whichever one it was. It was Durant, Oklahoma, to Denison, Texas. We load shed, and that gave us that extra oomph. We showed up with, I think, like 20 or 25 miles left at the Tesla site. And then the next thing is we plug it in. We're like, is she going to charge? Because if not, we're really going to be in trouble. So, but Tesla sites are notorious for being very dependable. So luckily it worked, and we're able to move on.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I can only imagine, like, being I love analytics of that kind of stuff, and I would think that once you set a plan, it's very hard for me to if I have no plan, I'm cool. But if I have a plan and we have to deviate from it, that's when I get a little wonky. It can be like, oh man,
Right.
I'm a little nervous for this for sure.
Sure.
Well, while we're talking about that, let's talk about costs, because that's always the thing people discuss. We
Right.
always talk about fuel mileage and all that kind of stuff. But what did it cost you to drive that thing for the week?
So I don't know if you have that slide of that. I could pull it up too. I don't have it in front of me that I'd prepared, and we can look at that. But I want to say,
was it email or did you send it in Facebook? I can't remember.
It would have been in
email.
Facebook. Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
Yeah,
I'll
there
pull
should be
it
a
up while you
Facebook
talk.
and right. I believe it's a PDF. So we'll wait on those numbers because I don't want to misquote, but that is the thing. When you're on the road with these and you use these DC fast charging stations, the cost to use DC fast charging is substantial in terms of versus if I charge it at home. To charge the car up for a couple hundred miles here at home costs you about $9. You're going to go about 200 miles on that charge for $9. It works out to somewhere like a nickel a mile in all the data I've been keeping. But when you get out on the road and you start using these DC quick chargers, your cost per kilowatt hour is substantially higher, basically the amount of fuel you're putting in the car, upwards of 35, 45, 50 cents a kilowatt. So it changes. I don't think it was that one there. That was the rough figures. There should be another one that is like a PDF format,
Okay.
and it will have it broke down like fully. If not, I can resend it to you real quick, and we can go from there. So these fast chargers cost more, and that's pretty much it. It negates a lot of what many would consider savings. And so I compare the data directly against driving our Explorer. And I believe the numbers come out to, without the trailer, the car gets around 22 effective miles per gallon when you're on the road exclusively using DC fast charging. And granted, I have the high performance, the top of the line Mach-E, and then you can also get lesser trims that are much more efficient. So, that's going to go up, but it's apples to apples that way. It's 12-second SUV, 13-second SUV, 12-second SUV. So I like to keep things equal. And so honestly, on the road, these two are very similar in miles per gallon when you break it down that way.
How long would it take to charge at those DC fast chargers?
Good question. And he's actually got that pulled up here. So these cars are designed to fast charge in a range of around 10% battery state of charge all the way up to 80% battery state of charge. That 80 to 100% state of charge takes a very long time, and that's done to protect the battery. So on the road, you can click in at 10% state of charge, and you can gain 150, 200 miles without the trailer in roughly 30 to 35 minutes. And so what I've done here is, you see that some of those texts, the letters are bolded. The beautiful thing about driving these when you're on the road, and like we experienced even on race week, is you can overlap things that you're already doing. So a lot of times, like with race week, we need a lot of ice, we need a lot of drinks. We're stocking our cooler in the trailer for that day. Walmart is a great place for that, and it just so happens a lot of your fast charging stations for one particular brand of charger, which is the Electrify America station, is usually at a Walmart. So while we were in doing that, it would be considered an overlapping charge, and that would be the ones that are bolded. So effectively, out of my day, it doesn't cost me anything. I'm already doing something, and the car can fill up while I walk away. So on race week, we had a total of, it looks like, around 5-6 hours, a little tough to see there, about 6 hours overlap. And then we had a total of 9.5 hours actually charging that car. And that, let me explain that a little. That would be actually when there's a charger hooked up to it and it's actively charging. I could only tally what I could see on the charge logs. That does not include the time, that you would spend seeing the location, pulling up, lining up the vehicle, getting out, plugging it in, starting to charge. So there's some time in there that's not accounted for. And then the actual money spent the week looks like $249.61 is what we spent for just race week itself. I did not include the getting to Tulsa and the coming from Tulsa in these numbers. I kind of just wanted to exclude it to race week only.
Yeah, I doubt there's many race cars or many internal combustion cars that raced on Rocky Mountain that did it for $250 in fuel.
Right.
Right. And that includes the racing. I think we made 11 quarter-mile passes. I just tallied that up. It might be on that sheet there. Yeah, somewhere, I thought. I counted that up, and I want to say we did like 11.
Oh, yeah, I've got cost per mile including 18 quarter-mile passes.
18. Okay. Yeah. We were just adding those up the other night. So that includes 18 quarter-mile passes. They're not full quarter mile though, obviously, because we can talk about strategy on that here in a little bit on how we're dialing the car. But so they're not full quarter mile passes, because naturally with an index class, we're leaving a little on the table so we can back right into that number.
Yeah, this is pretty awesome. This now, is this PDF something that you're gonna at least make out public or share,
Sure.
pieces of it, things like that? I think that would be really cool to let a lot of folks know. I do like that you included the failed attempt in Durant, Oklahoma. I think
Right.
that's kind of cool, and that's why I wanted you on tonight, is because this to me, I love this kind of analytical mindset to this, because a lot of times we don't look at cost of that stuff simply because to be honest, it's too hard. We don't want to see how much
Right.
we spend. But I think you following along will really open some eyes to a lot of folks. It'll show
Right.
people, hey, this isn't a bad idea. And I think you said it best. Like, this truly is a different kind of thought process. You're not driving along
Yes.
you're not looking at, all the different gas stations, Love's, Casey's, all that stuff, where there's one at every exit. You're now looking You're maybe using an app to do that. So the one question I have is, do you feel like EV stuff is better for bigger city things? Because being in the country, I would think it makes it a little more difficult to run around and do that, because you're not just popping in for 4 minutes to throw some gas in the car so you can get on across town. But at the same time, you probably have a charger at your house.
Right. So they come with a home charger, and you've got a couple different flavors there. You can use a 110 receptacle to charge the car. That's going to net you somewhere between, I think, 5 to 10 miles of recovery overnight. And again, this depends on the efficiency of the EV. I'll use the Mach-E's numbers as all this for the example, because different models are more efficient. Like Tesla's more efficient with the electricity you put in it, etc. But on Mach-E, I believe it's somewhere around 10 miles or so overnight. You'll recover maybe 15. So for the average person that drives 10 to 15 miles a day, they might be able to live off a 110 connection. The next step up would be your level 2, which would be like your 240, like a dryer plug, which I have in my garage, and that'll net you somewhere between 20 to 25 to 30 miles an hour, or overnight. I'm sorry, an hour. Yes, 20 to 25 miles an hour recovery. So you can actually do quite a bit with a level 2 charger, and that's usually what people prefer. Like my daily route, or our daily route, consists of about 30 miles, give or take. So, I mean, we plug in at home when we don't go to town about once every week to week and a half, depending on if it's cooler out, etc. Because when it's cooler out, you got to use battery to make heat. So that's another subject as well.
Man, lots to think about there.
Right.
Do you know offhand how much percentage the battery would go down with each quarter-mile pass?
I do, actually. I did a short video on my YouTube channel while on race week. And granted, I don't have any 11 quarter-mile passes on race week to compare to. I do have, which when we get into strategy, a lot of testing data. And you've seen how analytical I am with just the charging costs. I can tell you that the run data on this car to get it to the point where it was consistent like that is massive. And so I was able to do those numbers while I had that ability. And it's about 1% to 1.5% of battery state of charge for each full quarter-mile pass.
Wow,
it
that's not
doesn't
bad.
eat as much. Yeah, it's about, if you want real nerd data, the pack runs at like 340 to 360 volts. Under full throttle, it's pushing out about 1,100 amps is what's coming out of the pack under a full pull. I mean, so there's quite a bit of juice coming out, but there's a lot there to work with too, so it doesn't affect it, substantially.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your drag racing experience and how you and Nicole run so close.
Sure. No, I love this. And so done a lot of racing. I've been racing out here at SRCA right in my backyard since 2001. Definitely not claiming to be a super good racer, if you will. But I do have a lot of time on the 1320. And so I have a lot of experience with playing with vehicles of that nature down the quarter mile, if you will. And so I've had a lot of time to even my S550, I love to go out and I love to just get that data and learn the car. And so this one was no different. And the fact that it has all-wheel drive makes it even better, because you can actually get data, on legal roads up to the speed limit, and it's great. You can do your pull data, you can get it up, and you can shut it down, and you can kind of run that. So in the run up to Rocky Mountain Race Week this year, I knew that I had to learn a lot of things on this car. I had to learn what it would run at what battery percent state of charge. I got to know where the battery's at, what this thing's going to run. I've got to know what to do when the battery wants to condition itself. How do I condition it to get the temperature down, like we had talked, to where it doesn't start trying to do that while I'm racing, because that's going to affect the ET. Then the next problem I had was, how do we dial this car? It's like, how am I going to back this in? Because it runs all out a 12.5 to a 12.6. We'll pause for just a minute. I want to talk about that. The car has a freaky fast 8th mile. It's a typical EV thing to where it rips to 8th mile. It runs like a low 12. If you could run it all out, it would run a low 12 by the 8th mile numbers. But due to the current limiting factors in the battery, the contactor, and all the electrical components, Ford decided that on the back half, we have to turn this thing down. And that is, your foot's to the floor and you can just feel it going away. And then past about 80 miles an hour, it's about half power, and there's just nothing you can do about it. In the Mach-E community, we call it the 6-second rule. It lasts about 6 seconds, and then you get that power limit. So knowing that, I'm like,
real quick on that,
sure.
The reason being, I would imagine, is because how many people out of the entire automotive driving community are really needing to be flat out for more than 6 seconds at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good point. And in general use of this car, city driving, etc., because that 6 second rule is not hard and fast to just the
Yeah.
bottom half of the car. If you're passing, then you still have it all at that moment. So
Yep.
it's just on a dead still quarter mile, about 6 seconds in, around 80 miles an hour is when it starts to kick in. So
Yep.
all the questions I've had from when I've tested this thing, when I had it at Kearney, Nebraska for my pre-run for race week, was the thing rips to 8th mile and then it's just dead. Like, what are you doing to dial that? I said, aside from lifting off the accelerator, nothing. And you'll see the brake lights if you watch any of the videos. And these cars have what's called one pedal drive mode. And all that does is it changes to where your accelerator is basically, when you decel, it's like being in a gasoline car when you're in a lower gear, with a tight converter in an auto, or a stick car and you lift, and it's just engine dragging. Except what we're doing is we're just taking the motors and we're generating electricity and putting it back in the battery. So when you go in one pedal drive mode, that's all that's controlling is the amount of regen that the car has available. You leave it off one pedal drive mode, I still have regen, it's just not as heavy. So the reason they turn on the brake lights in one pedal drive mode when you lift is, it's, from what I read, a federal thing. If there's a certain amount of deceleration the car is going through, you have to kick on the brake lights to alert the driver behind you. So we're not actually on the brakes, but you can get on the brakes because the brakes are in no way affected by that system. The car has no control over the actual friction brakes, no control over the braking system whatsoever. So that's one thing that when I started looking this up, there's rules in every drag race class you go into. And I studied the NHRA EV rules as they currently are, because I actually have an EV class for EVs, it sounds like. And then I studied, from being a bracket racer, a lot of the rules are involved with that regarding throttle stops, etc., engine RPM limiters or speed limiters. So it really has been an interesting journey on that subject, because if you watch my in-car video, which I've only published one because I couldn't edit and race at the same time when we got into the drag and drive days, it was too much for me. And I still have all that content to put out, but I did produce one to where we're wearing a helmet cam at all times, because I always like to document everything. And I've got one on the dash, and you can just watch the speedometer fly to like 80, and it's almost like it's hitting some sort of, countdown. It's like slow.
Yeah.
That's literally, if you can see the power bar in the dash, the power bar starting to come up. The driver's foot is 100% down still. And then it just becomes old school bracket racing. It's count the mile an hour, try and lift at the precise moment, and then let gravity and inertia take over the show and hope you can click off the number. So what happens with me and Nicole on this is we jump in this thing. We've done a lot of testing prior to Rocky Mountain Race Week. We did a pull to Kearney, Nebraska, so we get track time and make sure the data panned out. We've all had a lot of time in the seat, and so we got pretty good at it. But we did face some
I would
struggles
say
this
so.
year.
13001 or 13003 and 130 all week, right?
Right. For the most part, but not quite. If you look at the run data, which you only see the ones in there that were obviously turned in. So we hit some struggles, and Texas was the first one. We both clicked off like a 12.95 or 12.93. I don't have the slips in front of me, but that if you go back and review the live video, you can see that we were too fast. And then we tried to slow it down. Again, it's all still driver skill. It's just when you lift that accelerator pedal, and you can see that we went too far. I think both of us had like a 1 something on the next pass around. Then we had that last pass come up, and a lot of it's just luck too. It's just dumb luck. And I actually jabbed the brake.
I wouldn't call it dumb luck. I would call it skilled luck. Like, what you're doing, you just maybe need to do it at a different time.
Right, exactly. It's there's a lot of seat time in this car, and we just knew the car. And like I've talked a lot about with a lot of racers that have done this for a while, it's they document everything. And as you can see, I'm very analytical. So if you watch really skilled racers, they will document their engine coolant temperature, their fuel percentage on board, and it just gets that precise when you start trying to get these things to hit that number. And it's the same concept here. We had to plan our trips before we got to the racetrack because we needed to have that battery at a certain percentage, but we had to take into account the trip to drive to the racetrack that will draw that down some. So a lot of planning and a lot of calculations at all times, because the consistency to get the car there, all those numbers have to line up. And that's what we did the whole week. It was tough. Like in Tulsa at Thunder Valley, we were setting at a Baptist church that had a fast charger 1 block off of the route. We could watch the race cars going by. We were already running behind for the day because I think we missed first call even down the track because we had so much time added to the day from charging on top of an already long drive day that we're just sitting there on the charger waiting to get up to a percent that I knew we would need before we could even get out to the racetrack, because the time we got there, we would have burned down some of that battery and put it right about what we needed to race. So there was a lot that went on behind the scenes versus any of these other ones. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's not splash a little more fuel in. It's,
Right.
let's go find the charger.
Yeah. And Mocad was challenging because of that. We the last charger stop was somewhere in Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma, and I was like, man, Parsons, Kansas shows 1 charger there, and it's a slow charger. We didn't talk about charger speeds, but let's just sum it up this way. You ever went to a gas pump and you click onto that thing and the needle just goes like this? And it's like, I'm getting like a half gallon every hour here. That's how the EV chargers work too. You'll show up to some and they may be rated at this speed and the car can accept the incoming current at this speed, but it's just not getting there. It's derated and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And there's nothing you can do about it. So all of a sudden your 30-minute charge window turns into an hour charge window because of that. And so we go to Parsons, Kansas. I had to get on that charger in order to be able to make it to Mocan with the proper charge percentage. So I get to Parsons, Kansas. We had a detour off the route in like 2.5, 3 miles for that. And we get in there. We get on this charger. It's a slower charger. We knew this. So we had to wait an hour just to get us enough to get to Mocan if we're lucky and have enough to race on. And then we drove all the way out to Mocan, which is like 30-something miles further past that Parsons, and barely showed up with enough to race. And we were on the cusp of hitting what would have been a power limiter for the car, because as the battery is drawn down, it will start limiting the total power output as well. And then you're in jeopardy of not being able to actually hit the ET mark at all.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. So how many passes could you make in a night? Because both, two of you are highly competitive in the 13.0 index. Like that's not by happenstance that you end up in first and second place. Like how many passes could you make in a night?
Like as far as the car itself, or just
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say, with what I know through testing, I only tested the car down to about 40% battery. So from about 90% down to 40 is my test range. I had figured that below 40%, we shouldn't have that scenario at any track. And if we do, the car might not have enough to achieve the ET anyway. So I would say, knowing that, it about 1.5% per quarter mile full, let's just say 1% then, since we're letting off early, 40, 45 passes, I'm thinking. You could make between roughly 80. Yeah,
you'd have had
easily,
way more than
easily
enough.
probably 30. Right, and that's the other thing with Rocky Mountain Race Week is, we're also veterans, if you will, and we know kind of what the event entails, and you got to show up on your A game, because you may only get 2 or 3 passes for the night with the way things work. It's just how it works. So you've got to be ready when you get up there in those staging lanes to lay that number down, which is where that extensive testing comes into play. But yeah, it's been a long road up to this, and I did not expect to do as well as we did. It's just we showed up this year, and we were just focused on the racing side of it, and that's all we did. And it seemed to have worked out pretty good.
That's awesome. Hey, Eric, I'm gonna let you run it for just a second. I think there's somebody at my shop door. Hang on, I'll be right back.
All right. How many passes did you end up making each day?
Each day it kind of varied, but the general consensus, I think, was 3 each, so 6. There was a couple days to where I think it was Thunder Valley. I'd showed up and I turned off an 01 like on just the first pass, and I just said that's good enough, And then Nicole took over, and I think she made 2 passes that evening. I'm pretty sure might have been 3. So it kind of varied, but generally we tried to make each and every call. We stayed till the very end at each track, unless we had got something we wanted to turn in.
Gotcha. Was there any days that you had one and done for either one of you?
Yeah, Thunder Valley for me was a one and done, and I don't think Nicole had any that were one and done without looking at the data. I think her 13.0 might have came her second pass at Texas, or whichever track that one was at, the 13.0. I want to say that I was the only one with a one and done, but I could have that wrong.
Gotcha.
Sorry. They were just asking if we were having a party tomorrow. He's
Neighbors.
like, I saw I saw the lights on in the shop. Just wanted to see if y'all are doing anything tomorrow. Yep, bud, gotta go. So sorry about that. All right, where were you guys at? What were you talking about? The 13.
Yeah, we
I
just
did-
finished the one and done conversation.
Give me just a sec, guys. Okay.
No worries.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
I just can tell you you're correct. I never had a one and done.
Oh, Nicole just came out and corrected me and said she never had a one and done. So
Hey,
yeah.
awesome.
Yep. So I don't know. Would you like to turn it over to her for a little bit? I mean, I'm sure she's got
Yeah.
some things she might want to share. That's totally up to you
Yeah,
guys.
I'd love
so.
to. I mean, she did
Okay,
win.
great. Right. Let's talk to the class winner. Right. Let me get this out here real quick.
All right, no worries. That's awesome. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Now, this is where we get the real story, guys. This is when we really hear what's going on. Can you hear us,
Hi.
Nicole? Hi. All right.
I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
Yep.
we're good here. So this is I was just saying this is where we're going to get the real stories right here. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're really talking analytics with Alan and kind of how all that works out and stuff. But you won the class, and I was just pulling up the Rocky Mountain stuff, and it looks like, did you have the best pass of the entire class with a 13003?
I think so. I think that was definitely my best pass, and I think that was the best of the class. I do believe there was another 000 that in that week, but I think it was like a 0007 or a 0009.
If it was, I don't think they turned it in, to be honest. I'm looking here now. I should have had this before, and I apologize for not. But
No, that's okay.
yeah, let's see here. Sorry. Yeah, so tell us about how much. Yeah, there was a 13009. So yeah, I think you did have the best pass of the class. How crazy is that? That's awesome. Congratulations.
It is. It's super awesome. Thank you.
Well, walk us down. Tell us a little bit, like how do you get involved with this? What do you think when Alan brings you the idea of, hey, what would you think about taking the Mach-E on race week instead of taking? I mean, we see the Explorer ST behind you there. How did that conversation go?
So it actually wasn't a hard conversation to come up with. I've been around cars my entire life. I loved being out in the garage with my dad. Growing up, I actually quit nursing school to go to automotive school
Nice.
right after high school. So I met Alan at the Ford dealership we both work at. I've been there for
Nice.
12 years now. So half the time, like this car, I may or may not have told the dealer principal to order it just like this, knowing he would love it. So it was a very easy conversation to have, and it was a yeah, let's try it. Can we make it? If we can get to Tulsa with pulling the backup trailer, let's go for it. I was 100% all for it.
How cool. Well, Alan and I had this conversation, and you were kind of in and out of it at the at Ennis, like in and out of the conversation, in and out of mental capacity there because it was hot down there. But we were talking about if you had to pull out the generator, like you guys would have been on the side of the road for a very long time because the generator, while being big, wouldn't have charged the vehicle very fast. So kind of walk us through that.
Correct. So even though that generator is very large, it doesn't quite put out the capacity that we need for any kind of fast charging. I believe that generator would have given us 20 miles for every solid hour that it was hooked up to the car. So if we were, 40 plus miles away from the next charger, we would have been at minimum 2 hours on that charger, on the generator, just to get to the charger to get us an ample charge to be able to then get to the next destination.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's how important that kind of stuff is. And one other thing Alan talked about too was that the AC stuff doesn't really eat up a lot of juice when you're sitting there just in a parking lot. So I never saw you guys in the car on the AC. I want to say that now. But he said, if it got too bad, we could have turned the AC on and got in the car and kind of cooled off a little bit if we need to. So that's a pretty cool aspect to it that none of the internal combustion guys could have done that for sure.
Yes, that was actually our plan for the last day at Tulsa. Since my co-pilot went down day one in Tulsa, the heat had gotten to her, and luckily you were able to get her up into the AC and get her cooled off. So we had decided that last day, if anyone started getting too hot, we were turning the AC on and we were going to sit there and get people cooled down.
Yeah, that's for sure. That was a scary moment, but hey, everything worked out great. And she
Yes.
obviously just it was literally just a moment there, and the paramedics made sure she was all good and things like that. And she went on and finished the week with you guys. It was awesome. Let me get these
She
pictures
did.
up. Sorry, almost there. So this is Alan and his co-pilot, and then you and your co-pilot. So give a big shout out to them. Tell us their names and some fun stories of them.
Yes. So my co-pilot's name is Melissa. Alan's is David. So they are actually in a relationship. And David has been Alan's co-pilot since the very first Rocky Mountain Race Week he went on in 21.
How fun.
So he's been by his side for all of them. And he came with us last year too, when it was in my Explorer, which a lot roomier, but it was still fun. It was super fun.
How cool. Well, that'll definitely test a relationship. And anytime that a husband and wife team can do a drag and drive together, they're certainly a power couple. Now, I can't imagine putting two couples into the same car for a week of the heat that we had there. So there's got to be some good times where you guys were. I get the silent treatment quite a bit if I'm doing dumb things. Were there some silent treatments going on there?
Not so much. Surprisingly, I actually joked with Alan after we got home. So he loves to pester our cat. They have a love-hate relationship. And I started scolding him and I was like, is it a good sign that we just survived Rocky Mountain Race Week and I didn't yell at you until we got home and it wasn't even about race week?
Yeah.
He's like, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah,
Nice.
that is pretty awesome. Well,
So
tell us. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say there was a question here that I thought might be a good question. Was there any gambling between you two during the event?
Yes, so there actually was. So Alan and I got married during COVID, just quick courthouse wedding because everything was shut down. We have our official ceremony coming up in just about 6 weeks. And we've narrowed our first dance song down to 3 songs, and neither one of us can decide. So we decided that the loser was going to have to pick the song because we couldn't choose. So he now gets the responsibility of picking our first dance song.
How fun.
Boy.
That's great. So yeah, talk about add a level of stress to the whole mix there. and now am I remembering this right? Was he leading going into day 4? And then you come in and just judo chopped him out of the first place?
Yes. So I was leading day 1, day 2, and leading into day 2, and then he took the lead and he was leading. And I took it back right at the end of the night at MoCan.
That's awesome because you ran 500s faster than him. So it's funny looking at these numbers later because you almost get a false sense of what goes on. So let's run through the times for Nicole this week. So 13:012, 13:089, 13:003, and a 13:010. Okay. Awesome times. Alan's 13:067, 13:015, 13:01, and a 13:066. Like you guys turned in 13:0s every day, which that's what it takes to win any of the index classes.
It does. And I had a couple people ask me about it when we got home. Because we do live in small town rural central Kansas where a lot of oil and gas guys, a lot of farm guys, nothing wrong with that. And they're like, well, you only did that because it's an EV. And I countered with, but the top 3 in 12.0 did the exact same thing in a gas car.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's still
it's just a different type of fuel.
Well, and it's definitely the driver makes all the difference in that for sure.
It does 100%. And everyone at Rocky Mountain Race Week, 99% of them have been doing drag racing for years on end. It's what everyone loves. It's their passion. So they're definitely going to be very good at it.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like next topic here we can jump into is do you have any good stories from like gas station stops? So people coming up to
few.
you guys at gas stations or anything like that?
So I actually got to see a few more electric vehicles than I was used to seeing. Around here we don't have a whole lot. We've got some Teslas in town. We have a couple Lightnings and Mach-E's. There were a few stops. I got to see some Rivians up close for the first time. That was pretty cool. Finally got to see an EV6 up close and personal. Talked to a couple of the Rivian guys while charging. So those were all pretty nice and neat. And then one of the Buc-ee's we stopped at, which Buc-ee's, it was my first experience ever at a Buc-ee's. That place is amazing.
Yes.
We were pulling in looking for the Tesla chargers, and we're like, oh, there's the chargers over there. We're going to go. No, those were all Mercedes-Benz chargers. The Teslas were on the other corner of the parking lot. And
Oh
we're
my
like,
gosh.
we didn't even realize Mercedes made their own charging network for their EVs. And to see one of them plugged in was pretty cool.
Wow.
But yeah, everyone we encountered
I wouldn't
charging.
even have thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty nice. And a lot of them were questioning, well, are you moving? Because we see the U-Haul trailer, but what's all these stickers? And so we got to explain to them what we were doing and what was going on. And they thought it was pretty cool that an electric was doing it.
Yeah, and doing well. That's the other side of it. It wasn't like you guys were just surviving. You're out there leading your class with, essentially 2 drivers. So that's pretty awesome. Well, what about stories from the pits? We know that based on what Alan said, Rocky Mountain racers and co-pilots were great, but did you have people coming through the pits that were asking questions?
We did. We had a lot of drivers and co-pilots walking around, other people walking around, and they would stop and talk to us, or people who were pitted next to us, we would talk, and they'd ask a lot of questions. It was really cool. A lot of them were super inquisitive. They'd been curious about them, but hadn't really been able to see one up close in person or really talk to anyone who had driven one. So I think it was a lot of good experiences all around.
That's awesome. Well, sorry, I was just thinking about a question I was going to ask about the gambling. So, is it just the song, or is Alan doing all the dishes now too?
No, just the song. That was really the only one we had. We kind of have an unspoken rule in the house. Whoever cooks, the other one does the dishes.
Yeah, fair enough. That works. I hope my wife isn't listening. Well, is there any future racing going to be done in the Mach-E?
I sure hope so. I'm really hoping that, they get something figured out with our track here at home. It's what Alan said earlier about not realizing what you have until it's gone really rings true. I'd really love to be able to put these two up side by side and see what they'll do. Because they'll both go mid 12 seconds. And so
Wow.
I think it'd be really cool to see.
Yeah, I think that'd be really tough in the Explorer though, because the Mach-E to 660 is going to be out. If it's like a car and a half, man, talk about a hard, visually running that car down, and then you're literally catching it at the end. That would be a fun race. We need that on Big Al's Garage YouTube channel.
Yes, I agree. I can say I think I've got the fastest time in the Mach-E when we went to Kearney before race week. I did a 12:55. And I think my fastest pass ever in the Explorer was, I think, a 12:06, maybe a 12:07.
Wow.
So I really want to see these two side by side.
Right. Well, let's talk about how many passes you made total in a day. Sorry, I just interrupted you there, Eric. I apologize. Like, what was the most passes that you made during the week?
3. I think I had a couple days where it took me 3. I think Texas went too fast a couple times and finally got a good one at the end of the night.
Like literally the end of the night, like you were the last car to go, next to last car to go down.
Yes. Yeah, we closed it out. And then when we got to Mocan, we actually ran both too slow. I think I had my 13 pass was a 13:22 or something like that. So I had to come back around and step it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think I didn't have any one and dones. So it was usually either 2 or 3 passes a night.
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question just a second ago, but who has the fastest pass overall in the Mach-E?
That would be me. At
Is
a
it?
12:55 at 101.16. Yep.
Wow.
He thought he
Nice.
was going to be able to use his fast pass and get the fastest run period at the end of Mocan. But my slip from Carney was still in the car, so it still counts as being the fastest.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
Nice.
in your opinion, what are a few things that we can look for, like in the future of like EV drag racing?
I think that it's finally starting to get a lot more traction, and a lot of the guys are finally willing to give it a try. They're not fearing as much backlash as what they think there's going to be. There's been a lot of improvement and education. So
Mhm.
I think it's coming a long way. I think in the next couple of years, especially after seeing one complete an event like this, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it.
Yeah, I think so too. And there was Jeremy or Justin Hammer, I can't remember his first name, at Drag Week last year in a Tesla, and that was cool to watch. And
Yeah.
obviously it typically gets a pretty bad rap, but I think the community, for someone to show up in one and brave the naysayers, is always a plus, and it's going to show like, hey, I'm also a racer. I just do my racing with an EV, and I think that's why it was so important to let people know that you guys also had a Whipple supercharged S550 Mustang GT. Like you're not some nerds in the middle of nowhere that are just driving an EV because you're from Silicon Valley and you're a tech startup. You know what I mean? Like you're really out
Yes.
there making the racing happen and things like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're both car people at heart. We have
Yeah.
been, ever since we were young. We've got other fast vehicles. We've got my Explorer. He had his Mustang. He's had so many projects and builds that have been really cool and really fast over the years. But we see where technology's going, the way cars are going, the way they're being manufactured. And if you don't get on the new technology and learn it, you're going to get left behind, which is something
Yeah.
we really don't want, especially with both working at the Ford dealership. So we thought it'd be pretty cool to own one, race one. And then we can also tell customers coming in, well, this is what it does in real life. This is what
Yeah.
everyone sees. This is what it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing, so for me, when I had my corporate job, I had, I drove a mile to work every day. Well, my wife drives 4 miles round trip every day. Like that's how close our employers were, right? Well, when we would go on a trip, I mean, you still have the Explorer to go on a trip with. So
Mhm.
it really does do like you can fill up for $22 at the house and then drive that thing all week on and get no gas, which would cost me a lot more because I'm in there buying gas station drinks and candy and breakfast and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of eliminate a little bit of that. But if you guys wanted to go on a big long trip and you wanted to go 400 miles and pull over and fill up in 8 minutes and get back on the road, you have the Explorer, which I think is what,
Exactly.
in my opinion, that's what an EV is perfect at. It is a runaround car. It's fun. The performance is there for quick bursts of speed. It does exactly what you need to do. And a lot of times it's a lot less maintenance. And then you have your other car for big, long vacation trips and things like that.
Exactly. And like Alan mentioned earlier, driving an EV is a completely different mindset, especially if you plan on taking it anywhere, any length of driving. So we have taken ours on several long trips. We've gone to a couple of the big cities around us, Wichita, Salina. They're both around 2 hours away from us. We've even taken it to Kansas City. But you do have the charge time, you have some wait time. But I can say with having a 4-year-old, it's perfect. The time it takes to get her out of the car seat, into the gas station, use the restroom, come out, get back in, it's charged and ready to go.
Yep.
But still not quite as convenient as having just a normal gas car on those
Yep.
long trips.
Yep.
But the infrastructure is getting there. The charging network is getting there. It's getting faster. It's getting more reliable. And there's just more of them out there than there were in years past.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're definitely in the midst of, I mean, this is literally the starting of like what would have been the build out of the gasoline stations and all that kind of stuff for here for EV. So that's pretty cool. Eric, you got
Exactly.
anything else for?
Yeah. How is NHRA going to handle EV racing, and will we see EV chargers at drag strips in the future?
Ooh, that's a good question. I know NHRA already has their own set of class rules for EV, so they already have an EV class listed with rules, including homemade EVs. There's a section in there for EVs that have been homemade, so they
Oh
know
shit.
what's coming. They're already prepared for it. So I think that they are ready to embrace it. As far as EV chargers at the tracks, that's an excellent question. Chargers keep getting cheaper and cheaper, and they pretty much make all of them a card swipe style. So you don't have to worry about someone just plugging in and not paying for the electricity they're using. So I think it's probably going to take a little while, but it wouldn't surprise me if you would see some popping up at your bigger tracks once they get a large EV following, and more people charging, just like you have your fuel station, you have E85, you have meth at the tracks, anything like that. I think over time we'll start to see it.
That's pretty cool. Well, hey, listen, I want to tell you congratulations for winning.
Thank you.
The 13.0 Index is one of the most contested classes in all of Rocky Mountain Race Week. The top usually 10 cars end up with a 13.0 average at the end of the week. And let me pull it up here and tell everybody what we got. So yeah, the top 6 cars ended with a 13.0 something average, and the top 13 cars ended with less than a 13.2 average. So that's a lot. That's a lot. People need to understand how hard that is to win that class. And for you and him to do that, it's pretty impressive. So congratulations on that. And also thanks again for coming on tonight. It's been awesome hanging out with you guys at Rocky Mountain and tonight, getting your aspect on it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us. I know Alan's been super excited to be able to share all of his statistics. He's very much a numbers guy, and he loves being able to share those numbers once he gets them, and really show everyone what the real numbers are.
Yeah, it's been fun. And I know he intends to do a lot of videos on Big Al's Garage YouTube. You can search that over there. And the videos I have watched of his are great. And he's very analytical. I love that about that stuff. And it's fun to watch, and I can't imagine the content that you guys collected at Rocky Mountain Race Week, because it's easy to collect content now. It's a matter of taking and editing that stuff down and getting it done.
Yes, absolutely. I told him there's going to be a couple where he's definitely going to have to mute the mic at the end of the runs, because he probably can't play those words on YouTube.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Well, guys, again, Big Al's Garage on YouTube. You need to go find it. Nicole, thank you so much for coming. I'm glad you came out to talk with us tonight. Thank you very much for that. And definitely tell Alan we said thank you to him too.
Yeah,
I sure will.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you soon. Are you guys doing 2.0?
No, we will not be doing 2.0. Like I said, our wedding is actually mid-August. So between that and a couple other weddings to try to attend at the end of this year, it's probably not going to be in the works for us.
Well, hey, way to knock it out of the park on the on Rocky Mountain, that's for sure.
Thank you.
All right, see you.
Okay.
What a fun dude! Talk about a fun couple. Hashtag power couple there for sure.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. I know I've kind of looked into the EV stuff a little bit. It's been a while now, but kind of looked into it because I agree there's going to be a future for it, and I think there's going to be an aftermarket future for it soon too. I think EV swaps into traditional cars is going to be a thing that's coming, and I think there's a lot of opportunities. EV Fox body 815 EV swaps. I don't know,
I don't know about that.
But it was definitely interesting hearing some of the stuff that Alan had to say, because there's a lot of stuff that he talks about that I would have never thought about that he had to take into consideration prepping for the event. So definitely cool to hear all that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that conversation. I hope that folks at home, again, we're not going EV over here. We're internal combustion and turbos, but there's a lot of opportunity there. And maybe if you owned an EV, that gives you the difference in monetary spend to have a faster race car. I mean, because that's why racers generally have shit boxes is because we want whatever's the cheapest that we can drive to and from where we got to be is awesome. And then we can have our race car on the side and spend all of our money there. So again,
And,
I had a blast tonight. This is awesome.
and as always, it's getting more people into the drag and drive community. So if, them talking to drivers, EV people at the gas stations and charging stations, I mean, if they see somebody doing it, they might get interested. Again, it's spreading the word of drag and drive. It's just one more way to do it.
Yeah. Can you imagine me having to sit next to someone for 45 minutes and I'm like, hey, yeah, we're on this trip to drag and drive. You ever heard of it? They're like, oh my God.
Yeah, you should try it out sometime.
Yeah, you should just come with us now. Screw it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, listen, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. Thank you so much for being our race car friends. You guys are awesome. It makes all the world go round for us on this end. It's really to be up at 1:00 like I was on Monday night and be working through stuff and still getting pings of people sharing photos and talking and sending messages and all that kind of stuff. It's really amazing, and we can't do it without you guys. We really can't. I want to say thank you. Hit the share button one last time before we jump out of here. And again, thank you to our sponsors: Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports, Driven Racing Oil, Car Chains 3D, Waf Racing, who has the new debut for the new product drops tomorrow, and then Performer Built Transmissions, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Racing Junk Classifieds, and Power Tube TV. Guys, we'll see you again in a few days for the news.
Yep. Everybody keep your fingers intact this 4th of July too, by the way. See ya.
Good luck with that. Bye. Dude, that was funny.